Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this rather chilly December 19th, Tuesday. I mean, what happened? It wasn't long ago we were having 60-degree weather. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, winter? Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, it'll be back. Just give it we got to get through this first, and then it'll be back near 60, I think, by the weekend, right?
Yeah, I hope. But then I just heard they saying, weather, we're going to rain. I mean, I could do without some rain. If it gets this cold and it's rain, it won't be rain.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
I got up this morning, had to run downtown. I was downtown. I dropped in on Dan Mandis this morning.
Oh, downtown Nashville. I thought.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, not
Gotcha.
downtown. Going downtown Watertown is no big deal. Yeah. I was all the way downtown this morning and dropped in on Dan and the guys and got dragged into their crazy, and it was fun.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
you were one of the amigos.
I was. Well, it was not really amigo time. I just sort of I just got invited in, and then there's sort of a weird thing when you're a broadcaster. You generally don't like doing broadcasting without headphones, because there's yes. Johnny B was trying to talk to me and I couldn't hear him, and they didn't have any headphones. You think if people who just drop by, you might have an extra pair of headphones around somewhere.
This is a radio station, after all.
I know, after all, it is a radio station.
You know what's funny is I know for a fact there is an extra pair of headphones in that studio, beautiful pair that Dan just obviously didn't know about. I think he owns them as well.
I don't see any sitting on the counter.
Yeah, they're hidden behind the. They're hooked on. Yeah, they just
didn't help me out. I promise you. But anyway, we got a lot of stuff to cover here today, and again, I apologize because I don't want to sound like a broken record. It's so easy, when there's something out there and it just gets bad and bad and bad, and you just feel like, well, I have an obligation to report this. But, it's sort of, the same story, except that, on this particular story, it gets worse and worse and worse every day. And I'm talking about the situation on the border. I just can't ignore it. It is the big story today, because they are now down on the southern border. They are shattering records never before seen when it comes to illegal immigrants coming across the border and the Border Patrol having encounters with them. Here's the latest story. This from the Washington Examiner. U.S. border officials encountered the highest number of illegal immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border on Monday. That was yesterday, upending all other records that the Biden administration has set over the past 3 years. Unbelievable. The Washington Examiner attained internal U.S. Customs and Border Protection data Tuesday that revealed 14,509 immigrants were encountered by federal law enforcement at the southern border on Monday. The large majority of encounters were of immigrants who walked around the port of entry and crossed into the country illegally, while a small percentage tried to enter at the port of entry but were denied admission. They are completely overwhelmed. And now that was yesterday. Today, I think it may be worse. It'll take us a little while to get the numbers, but Bill Maloogian is on the job down there, and they've got cameras all over the southern border, and it looks like it's a really, really another bad day, maybe worse than yesterday.
And the numbers just keep getting worse. Those 12,600 encounters you mentioned, that is the highest single-day total ever recorded, beating the previous record just a couple of weeks ago. And Eagle Pass is just getting completely overrun. Thousands upon thousands of migrants camped out waiting to be processed by Border Patrol. I can tell you, I've spent hundreds of days in Eagle Pass over the last couple of years. I've never seen the situation that bad there. Masses of migrants still camped out there waiting for Border Patrol. The railway bridge has been shut down in the Eagle Pass, also in El Paso. CBP doing that to redeploy personnel to help Border Patrol with migrant processing, and Union Pacific is not happy about that decision. They tweeted in part, quote, Union Pacific urges the Eagle Pass and El Paso border crossings to be reopened immediately. Roughly 450,000 rail shipments move across these two gateways annually. It would take over 1 million trucks to move the same amount of goods. These locations represent 45% of cross-border Union Pacific business and include goods critical to the U.S. economy. So essentially, they are shutting down international commerce in these spots to help speed up migrant processing.
And they don't have enough people to handle it. And so, they don't have enough people, places to put people. And so they just release them. I mean, they have no choice but to just release them into the country. It's really basically they're standing at the border and just waving people through. Come on through. Come on through. Yeah, America's that way. Have a good day. Oh, here's a piece of paper. Please check in with us. I mean, it's outrageous. We have no border. And you say, well, why is it getting bad? Well, I think it's getting bad because of some things that have happened. One of them is that the governor of Texas just signed a law in today that said if we catch you, we're going to put you in jail for breaking the law and coming into this country, into our state, illegally. Now, I don't know whether this is going to hold up in a court of law, but at least he passed it here today. And at the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre had this reaction to the decision by the governor and the state of Texas to try to take care of a problem that the federal government is not taking care of.
Question on the new immigration law in Texas. Does White House have any thoughts on that law? And there appears to be some litigation that's starting over the law as well.
Look, this is an extreme law that will not and does not make the communities in Texas safer.
Hold it. It's an extreme law? I'll tell you what's extreme. It's not enforcing the law. That's an extreme position. And what do you mean it won't help? If you slow down the flow of immigrants into this country, it won't help the situation at the border? This woman is an idiot.
It just doesn't. And I think to add to that is that it is very much in line with what Republicans, many Republicans, like to do or tend to do, which is demonize immigrants and also dehumanize immigrants.
I don't even understand. How is it demonizing or dehumanizing the people coming across the border? That has nothing to do with the objections being raised by Republicans. We're not out to dehumanize or demonize anybody. We simply think that the border laws should be enforced. And that when you come across the border, the first time you step foot on this country, you're already breaking the law. Because it's illegal to do what they're doing. I'd like to think that we're a nation of rules and laws, and we have laws on the books that simply aren't being enforced. This has nothing to do with dehumanizing these people. It's really are demonizing. Nobody's demonizing them. They're simply pointing out that, we're being overwhelmed at the border, and people are coming into this country who don't have a right to be here.
This is part of this. And so this is not who we are as a country. This is not who we should be as a country.
We're not a country of laws? I thought we were a country of laws.
Communities should not be individually targeted and put into harm's way. And this is what we're seeing. Again, this is something that Governor Abbott has done over and over again. There are plenty of examples that I've listed out from here before, whether it's leaving migrants in the side of the road in the middle of winter, installed razor wire near the border, making it more dangerous for Border Patrol to do their jobs.
No, it's not dangerous for them to do their job. It's supposed to be, trying to enforce the laws that the federal government is not enforcing, which is, their responsibility. It's really not the state of Texas's job to do that. But when nobody will do it, somebody has to step up.
And place bayous in the river, making it harder for Border Patrol to do their jobs as well. So this is certainly extreme as we see it.
Extreme.
And it is incredibly unfortunate, but this is what we see from particular Republicans trying to dehumanize a group of people who are coming here, or some of them trying to migrate here, and they're putting them in harm's way.
Well, there's a process. I can't even begin to find the words to respond to this. There is a process for people who want to migrate to this country, and it's not wading across the Rio Grande River. That's not migrating the way you're supposed to do it. And if you got a problem with the way the laws are written, then change the laws. Streamline the process. I wouldn't be against that at all, because I think it's a burdensome process. But I mean, this is ridiculous. And remember, these are not just poor migrants from Mexico or Central America or even Southern America or South America. They are not. Many of these are from Africa, from Haiti, from around the world. I mean, basically, what has happened on the border is anybody who wants to come to America has decided, I don't have to play by the rules. I'll just go to the border and wade across, and they will welcome me with open arms. And, and then we can all thank Joe Biden.
I love you, Joe Biden. Thank you for everything, Joe Biden.
Yes, thank you, Joe Biden.
I love you, Joe Biden. Thank you for everything, Joe Biden.
All right, so Corrine she thinks that passing a law that enforces some level of control on the border by the state of Texas is demonizing and dehumanizing people. That's just egregiously wrong. And she's got her nose in a snit. She just looks at this and she just takes great offense at what Republicans are asking for, which is, some level of security on the border.
Well, I'm not going to get to the specific of what's being discussed here. I'm just not going to negotiate from the podium, obviously. But I take offense.
She takes offense.
I think the president does too, in saying that we haven't taken this seriously. When you put your first piece of legislation is on immigration to fix the broken system, that is taking it very seriously.
Well, okay, you could put forth anything you want to, but what you put forth was something that was a non-starter on Capitol Hill. They hide behind that all the time, saying, well, the first thing we did was to put forward a piece of legislation to fix the problem. What they wanted is amnesty for people who are in this country illegally. That's what they wanted. That's their fix. Which do you reward people who violate the law? In my estimation, if you're going to have people become American citizens, they have to get back out of the country, and then they have to come back in and apply through the regular process. That's the way the law required. Now, you may not like the law, but that's the law. It was passed by Congress and signed into law by previous presidents, and we're supposed to adhere to the law, faithfully and execute and uphold the laws on the books. And they're not doing it. They're simply turning a blind eye to it.
When you put out an emergency supplemental, which we put out weeks ago, that has the border, funding for the border.
Funding for the border, yes. It's not to make the border more secure. It's to process more people.
We take that very seriously. And then you have Congress. They put forward H.R. 2. They continue to get in the way, Republicans, to be more clear, on actually doing what the president is asking for.
Well, the president doesn't. He's not the frickin' king. He doesn't just get to wave his hand and say, this is the way it will be. There's this little thing called, division of government. We have a legislative branch that you have to go through, Mr. President. I'm sorry that's such a burdensome thing for you. But you're supposed to go to Capitol Hill and you say, okay, what can we come up with? And remember, when you go around Congress, you're going around the people, because the Congress is made up of people, representatives, senators, and congressmen who were sent there by the people. So he's you want to know where I take offense to? It's them circumventing the people and their will, because the people are sent to Congress. They represent what you want. And, that's hard. It's hard to get Congress to do anything. Well, it's supposed to be hard. That's the way it works. But you don't get to just wave your hand and have it your way. It's not Burger King. I'm sorry. I'm wound up today. This just is standing on my last nerve. And it's going to get worse. And you know why it's going to get worse? Because people have figured out that the state of Texas is going to start trying to enforce the law. Now, I don't know how that's going to go. They've also figured out that Joe Biden is probably not going to get reelected. And if they're going to get into this country, they better come now before the process starts next year. And that's why December, which is the slowest month for this kind of stuff, has become the busiest time. They're trying to get in under the wire. Get in while you can. Because they understand there are negotiations, and they may actually start trying to enforce on some level the law. And that's why they're trying to get across now, before that happens. That's all that's going on here. There's nothing complex about what's happening. That's it. And until we start enforcing the law, it's not going to get any better. It's going to be worse tomorrow and the next day and the next day. 22 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Let me tell you about the folks over at Genesis Diamonds. They have got a big sale going on right now. Genesis Diamonds has the relief you need this holiday season. 5 years, 0% interest on anything and everything. Genesis has rolled back interest rates to 0.0%. So that's $5,000 diamond ring is yours for just $85 a month. People are loving this offer, especially this year when finance rates are so high everywhere else. Nothing is held back at Genesis. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, certified natural diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, even luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Just pick up any item for that special someone and spread your payments over 5 years without paying one dime of interest. A $10,000 designer ring comes to just $167 a month. So don't miss this incredible offer. Colored gemstones, designer fashion jewelry, this year's most treasured gifts, all included in this once-a-year offer. At Genesis, they're breaking all the rules to make sure this holiday season your money goes as far as it possibly can. Best prices, unbeatable selection, highest quality, and super aggressive financing. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hill and Cool Springs, on approved credit only.
The Biden administration pushing for more humanitarian pauses in Gaza and some possible legislation coming to Tennessee concerning flags in schools. We'll tell you about it. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, yeah, we're just a few days away. I got to get on that Christmas shopping. I mean, I got to get busy. Maybe I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, you got time.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I did me some Christmas shopping today for me. And
Oh, well.
You know, I got taken care of, so now I have to make sure the Cabana wife gets taken care of. I think there was, she signed off on my Christmas present to me, and so, I think that was just her way of saying, but then of course there'll be, and I'll expect an equal measure for me, that I'll need to do something like that. So
you can do this for yourself. Just keep in mind that.
Then what I tell her is, you can go out and buy you whatever you want. No,
it doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. No.
Uh-uh.
But no. So if you don't know, yesterday I was sort of hinting around at it, and I love being in Nashville because I love the music here, and I love the fact that all these great musicians are here, and people that I've admired for many years, are now people who live in the area, and you can run into them at the grocery store or down at the hardware store, or filling up your tank, and you look over there. Hey, there's like, there's a music superstar over there doing the same thing. So yesterday on Facebook, a guy that I really love, he's a very good guitarist. His name is Cousin Kenny Vaughn, and he plays with Marty Stewart. He's part of the Fabulous Superlatives, has been for years. And I have a lot of Marty Stewart in my collection of music. I mean, I think he's right up there, one of the top on my phone right there, right behind the Beatles, maybe. I don't know. But, and I'm a big fan. And so he put a guitar up for sale yesterday, and I showed it to Cabana wife. Oh man, I'd love to have that guitar. That would be just great to have a guitar that, from somebody that you really respect, but also, it's not just a, run-of-the-mill, stock off-the-shelf guitar. It's been hot rodded. It's been customized, and so I contacted him and purchased the guitar yesterday. Picked it up this morning, and I got to meet Cousin Kenny Vaughn.
Nice.
We met downtown. I was down not far from the radio station, and he came by, and so I got a picture. If you want to see this guitar, it's a Floyd thin line Telly. And custom made, all the parts are custom made and hot rodded. And I mean to tell you, I came home, plugged that sucker in, and it's like, too good. It's not. I've got a lot of guitars, as you know. I don't have anything that sounds like this, and it was just it was a great experience. So he was very nice. He posed for a picture. And then he signed the headstock right up there around the tuners, on the back side of the guitar. He signed his name. So now I can prove that it was actually owned and played by Cousin Kenny Vaughn.
Pretty cool.
A member of the Fabulous Superlatives. Yeah. Anyway, he was a very nice guy, very, very, and I told him I got home and I sent him a text message saying, shoot, I am so happy with this guitar. So thank you, Cousin Kenny Vaughn, for coming down to meet me today. I did drop in this morning and saw the guys on the morning show, and because I went down early so I could see everybody and say hello, visit around the station.
Yeah.
I want to remember I still work there.
Got to check your key card every once in a while. Make sure it still works.
And it didn't work on one door. I don't know what that was all about. I think it's probably the door more than my key card because I got in okay. But no, it was good to see Johnny B and Dan and Ken Weaver, and then I saw Mac. He comes in early.
I'm there.
He puts in a hard day, that Mac Moore.
He does, yeah.
he's a multi-talented guy. So anyway, now I've got to go think about Cabana wife, and I have what? Let's see, today's the 19th. So I have 5 days, shopping days left till Christmas.
Yeah. Well, really 4 at this point for you. Right?
Yeah, really, you're right.
Yeah.
I better get on it.
Better start thinking.
Socks?
Yeah, just go with that. I'm sure that'll
Mittens?
Be fine.
I don't know.
Yeah, that'll work.
That's
just a nice handwritten card.
Yeah, that's right. Handwritten card. Yeah. I'll get some construction paper and make a card.
Crayons.
Yeah, that's right. It's 30 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
3:31, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, a little bit chilly, 42 degrees in Nashville, but that sun is flying high. Less windy than it was yesterday. We got a full forecast and a traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. While the United States pressures Israel to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza, the State Department says its top priority is freeing hostages held there. Andy Field with the latest.
The U.S. estimates Hamas is still holding 8 American hostages after that October terror attack. And the U.S. says the Secretary of State's working every day to free them.
Every phone call he's had with leaders in the region, it is always one of the first things he mentions. And that's true not just for him, but for others in the government.
State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller saying the U.S. is working through Qatar and other allies who then talk with Hamas negotiators.
And another ceasefire looking unlikely right now, but the administration pushing for smaller, more localized, more targeted humanitarian pauses to help get hostages out and get more aid in. And back here in Tennessee with some possible legislation, Fox 17 reports of a proposed bill that would make it illegal to display any flag other than the United States and official Tennessee state flags in your child's public school classroom. And if passed, teachers and schools would be prohibited from display the pride flag and transgender flag. The bill was filed for introduction on November 15th of this year. It's sponsored by Representative Jenna Bulso of Brentwood. And New York's governor signs legislation to create a commission on slavery reparations in the state. Derek Dennis.
It'll be a 9-member appointed commission charged with making recommendations, including new policies and or potential payouts to descendants of slaves in New York. Governor Hochul signing legislation to create the commission, saying it's overdue.
To those who think that even having this conversation is unfair or wrong, I say it would be wrong not to have it.
Slavery was made illegal in New York in 1827, but supporters of the bill, including the Reverend Al Sharpton, say there's still a racial wealth gap in the state today that needs to be rectified.
I want to give credit to this governor.
And that is the latest news, weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, it's 39 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Brian Wilson, and we're glad that you're with us on this Tuesday, December 19th. Yeah, that's right. It's a I think a rather brisk day.
That's a good word for it. Brisk.
I can't get warm. I got cold this morning. I just can't get warm all day today. And I have a hefty sweater on. You'd think that'd be enough to get it done, but it's not. On Capitol Hill. There's a lot of scandals that happen on Capitol Hill, and every once in a while there's a little bit of a sex scandal, if you know what I mean. And I don't know if you've heard this or not, but somebody broke into one of the senatorial hearing rooms, and they basically shot a porno tape.
Oh my.
Yeah, two guys. It was a gay porno tape, and I've seen the video. I watched it, so you don't have to. And now I can't get that image out of my mind. I wish I hadn't watched it. It's bad. It's bad. I mean, it's in what you call Hart 216, in the Hart office building. That's where. This is the place. I know you've seen this. It's the big hearing room that's designed for television. The backdrop is white and gray marble, and it's a big room. And it was empty. It was at night, obviously very dark, and there was nobody else in the room. And apparently it happened. Let's see. I read it here on the seat between where Senator Chris Coons and Amy Klobuchar sit. That's right. And I don't know what to tell you except that it's pretty out there. And now apparently we are led to believe, and it's been confirmed, that it was a staffer who worked for Senator Ben Cardin, a Democrat of Maryland, who I think has announced he's not running for re-election. He's just serving out his time. Probably one of the most unremarkable senators in the United States Senate. He just, he's not, I can't think of not one thing that makes me remember Ben Cardin, except that he was my senator when I was in Maryland, and I was saddened by that fact. He says he's angry and he's disappointed with an ex-staffer. And there is a name floating around. I'm not going to use the name because the guy's talking about lawsuits and all that kind of stuff. He never confirms that it's him. And quite frankly, we never see faces. So it's hard to know. You just see, you see a lot, but you don't see their faces. You see a lot of other things, but you don't see their faces. So I can't say for sure, but this guy said, I would never disrespect the institution of the United States Senate. Well, somebody was disrespecting the institution of the United States Senate, and Cardin says he's angry. He's disappointed, and he fired the guy. Apparently, fired him. Well, we don't know if he's fired him because he won't say whether he was fired or not. But when you hear him talk, he doesn't sound like he's angry or disappointed. In fact, it sounds like he would rather do anything in the world but talk about this.
These are personnel issues that I won't talk about publicly as to how we get personnel.
Did your office booked the room at the time?
I don't know the details.
Yeah, how did he get in there?
I don't know the details.
What was the staffer like?
My knowledge of this was over the weekend when I learned about it. Made sure that he was separated, so he left the Senate employment. And that the appropriate steps were taken from the point of view of our office.
Did he exhibit any unusual behavior while he was working in the office?
Well, yeah, but some.
Do you know him very well, or?
I would have to ask. These are personnel issues, and I would not be the right person. I'm just not going to get into a personnel issue.
He's not the right person. Well, it's his office, right? It was his employee, and he said, I made sure he was separated. I don't know exactly what that means. I think it means that they separated him from his job. Although, if you've seen the video, it's hard to know. Let's not think about that too much.
Do you think there will be criminal charges pressed?
I'm not going to get into personal investigation issues.
But your office is what, cooperating with the Capitol Police on this? And have they contacted you to look into this?
They haven't contacted me, but I'd have to check to see if someone in my office was.
And he doesn't know anything about it. He has to check with somebody in his office to find out if they've been contacted. He doesn't know. How could you not know?
Was this a staffer just called an earlier question that you knew personally, that you worked with personally?
I know all my staff people, so I know.
Well, were you particularly close to the staffer? Did you know him well?
I can't tell you that I'm not going to get into my
The video that looks like a legit video, right?
I don't know. I'm not going to get into that because it's not. That's something that'll be investigated, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the specifics because it's not what I know.
You met with Senator Schumer today. Was this part of the discussion with them?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And he's off. This happened out in the parking lot. This interview. And he didn't want to talk about it all. He doesn't know nothing. He doesn't know anything at all. He added, did not talk to the ex-staffer and indicated the individual has not apologized. The video, which shows two people having sex, was filmed in Hart 216, a room best known for hosting Senate Judiciary Committee business, but has also hosted some of the biggest events on Capitol Hill. The 9/11 Commission, they were there. Anytime there's a big hearing, you reserve 216 Hart because it's built for television. I mean, there's sky booths upstairs, so and it's a big old room. When pressed whether she supports the probe, as Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat of Minnesota, a member of the Judiciary Committee, told reporters that Cardin is dealing with it, and she says he was fired. Other lawmakers injected a little humor. While reporters were searching for Cardin on the Senate floor, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, jokingly scolded those who were staking him out, said, "Leave that beautiful man alone." Senator John Kennedy, he's got something to say about it. He wondered out loud, are we locking the doors at night now? Do we lock the doors at night? Well, we do? Okay, good. Thanks. Good to know. I don't know how in the world they got away with it. The man has threatened to take legal action after he was identified on social media. He wrote on a post that has been taken down since, "While some of my actions in the past have shown poor judgment, I love my job. I would never disrespect my workplace. Any attempts to characterize my actions otherwise are fabricated, and I will be exploring what legal options are available to me in these matters." I think that the other people will be looking at legal options as well, just guessing. He is not confirmed he's the one in the video, even though his name was posted online associated with it. I can't verify. I don't know the guy. So there's that sex scandal. There's another sex scandal that's brewing that I think will probably have some impact on the nation's capital, because I have a feeling some interesting people are going to be named. Have you heard this? More than 175 of Jeffrey Epstein's associates are to be revealed in court documents in 2024. Hundreds of files related to the associates are set to be released on January 1. You won't hear about it on January 1 because January 1 is a federal holiday. It's New Year. And they're not going to be open and processing this kind of stuff on that day. A federal judge has ordered the names of 177 associates of the late convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein to be made public with the unsealing of court documents. The judge on yesterday, ordered the names to be unsealed in connection to a defamation case brought by Prince Andrew accuser Virginia Roberts Guthrie against Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine, Epstein's former girlfriend, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for sex crimes. Hundreds of files related to the associates are set to be released on January 1, but will likely be made available the following day. The 51-page court order published in the Daily Mail lists 187 Epstein associates and said their information would be unsealed and why. There are 10 John Does that will be listed who will remain anonymous. Now, here's the thinking behind that. They are alleged minor sexual abuse victims who have not publicly spoken about their experiences in those cases. The public interest does not outweigh the privacy interest of the alleged minor victims. This all comes as a result of a lawsuit filed against Maxwell in 2015 for defamation. And while the case has since been settled, media outlets have filed to have the documents published. And the rumor and the buzz around Washington, D.C. is that there's probably some high-profile people. We know lately everybody's been talking about, let's get the flight logs for the Lolita Express, as they call it, Jeffrey Epstein's plane. And a lot of people, I think, in a sort of a preemptive strike, have said, yes, I was on that plane with my wife, and, yes, I just simply, nothing unusual happened at all. And yes, maybe in retrospect, I should not have been on a plane with that guy, given all of his history. A lot of people have done that kind of thing, trying to, admit, yes, you're going to find my name on the flight logs, but I want you to know, I was with my wife, or we were not going to the pedophile island. We were not doing that at all. And nothing untoward happened. I think one of the guys that's going to have a lot of splaining to do, if some of the stuff that's been leaking out on this story is accurate, is Bill Gates. There's some stuff there, and people have raised it with him, and boy, does he get angry and clams up in a hurry anytime that topic gets raised. So I don't know. Very powerful, rich and famous, politically connected people, politicians, all flew on that plane, and a fair number of them went apparently to that island, and it will be interesting to see which names are on that list on January 2nd. Mark your calendar. It'll be Happy New Year. Now here's a list of a bunch of people who were on Pedophile Island. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
United States Defense Secretary in the Middle East today, a police chase in Tennessee. The state suing the world's largest financial assets manager and a missing woman here in the volunteer state. Those stories more coming up 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, let's take a look at the markets and see how they closed out. Another great day. I mean, a lot of green screens here. Dow Jones Industrial jumped 250 points. The S&P up 27, NASDAQ up 98. So all screens are vibrantly green. There seems to be a lot of optimism. What is this all about? Let's ask John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. John, what's driving all this?
Well, I'll tell you what. Good afternoon, Brian. It continues to be green days on the market. Investors in the market are still incredibly upbeat about the Fed pivot on interest rates. And now the betting numbers are that the Fed is going to reduce rates starting in March. Dow just hit its fifth straight record. S&P is close to an all-time high. But it's interesting. The Fed has several members that are continuing to try and temper those expectations. But it was probably fueled a little bit more today because when we got some real estate numbers, construction of new homes rose 14.8% in November. So we're already seeing this expectation in the real estate market. Important inflation report on Friday will tell us a lot more.
All right, John, thank you very much. Learn more about all the things they can do for your Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Big news from the folks over at DT McCall's. If you've been thinking of buying a gun safe but putting it off, well, really now is the time to take action. Gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. And so when you're not in a tree, in the tree stand, you want to keep your gun safe at a gun safe at DC McCall's. You can get one there. The DC McCall is one of the largest Liberty Safe dealers in the whole state of Tennessee. And the reason has to do with delivery and setup. You see, some charge $500 at least for delivery and setup in the bigger models, $300 for the smaller models. DT McCall & Sons delivers every safe free, every time period, never a setup charge. Security is so important these days, and gun safes can be used for valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now on your gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, a brisk day, 40 degrees on Music Row. Some warmer temperatures looking like there could be possible later on in the week. We'll tell you about it. Weather forecast, traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. The U.S. Defense Secretary continued his Middle East trip today and spoke with American troops there about what they face with growing conflicts in the Middle East. Andy Field with the latest.
Defense Secretary Austin landing in Qatar at the U.S.'s largest Middle East military base. He was there to give troops a pep talk about risks they and others face with war in Gaza, rebel attacks on ships from Yemen, and Iran's continued threats.
It's about as busy as it gets in the region here.
President Biden working to make sure those troops don't see combat and instead provide enough power to prevent an expanding war.
And while the U.S. pressures Israel to minimize civilian casualties over in Gaza, the State Department says its top priority is freeing the hostages held there. In Tennessee, a police chase. 25-year-old Jacob Austin Etheridge was arrested last night after fleeing a traffic stop and speeding away. A helicopter was deployed to help track down Etheridge in a purple Dodge Charger that he was driving. Officials found bags of marijuana, cocaine, oxycodone, mushrooms, and an unknown prescription pill, as well as a Draco pistol and a semi-automatic Ghost pistol with no serial number in the vehicle. He admitted to going about 170 miles an hour during this chase. He's being held on a $278,000 bond. And Tennessee suing the world's largest financial assets manager over environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, policies. State Attorney General Jonathan Scarametti tells WTN's Nashville's Morning News BlackRock is the target, but not only the company that is misleading investors into thinking that they've got the customer's best interest in mind rather than a political agenda.
This is so pervasive, it's gotten so big that it's going to take a lot of pressure for people on the financial industry to return us to the bland world where all the financial guys want to do is make money, and the policy gets made by the elected officials.
And Scarametti says BlackRock joined ESG coalitions like the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative, making specific promises towards achieving specific emissions reduction targets. A missing woman in Tennessee. Montgomery police are looking for 27-year-old Teresa Nicole Wilkinson. Hasn't been seen in over 4 months. The last time anyone was in contact with her was in September when she texted her mother. Investigators believe that she could still be in Montgomery County, but also maybe in Shelby County or Hamilton County, near that area. Wilkinson's about 5 feet 4 inches tall. She weighs around 120 pounds with brown hair and hazel eyes. Anyone with information is asked to call police. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon. Hour number 2 now underway. We already got 1 down and 3 to go. And we got a lot of ground to cover here on this 19th day of December. We're glad that you're with us here on The Drive, where we're going to drive you home and drive home a few salient points, and maybe along the way we'll drive the liberals just a little bit crazy. That's sort of the goal, the unstated goal of the program each day. And so let's buckle up, everybody. Here we go. We're going to do our 2024 update. We are less than a month from the voting in Iowa, and I got to tell you, there is a lot of pressure on Joe Biden right now to bow out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of these stories. I mean, everybody who is a Democrat is now, leaking a story or participating in a story. And it's really a sort of a drumbeat, a drip, drip, drip kind of situation where they're trying to get Joe Biden to sort of, come to the conclusion that he's not up for running for re-election. So far, he seems oblivious to it. Let me just start going through some of this stuff here. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff here. This from the Washington Examiner. Aides surrounding President Joe Biden are growing concerned about his age as he continues to run with a heavy campaign schedule on top of his presidential duties. The problem of Biden's age surfaced during the 2020 campaign, but he was successfully elected to the White House at 77. This time around, current and former Biden aides are saying the president might not have a grasp on the widespread voter concerns surrounding his age and the strain of a massive workload, according to a report from Axios. He is his worst own enemy when it comes to his schedule. First Lady Jill Biden is reportedly involved in the president's schedule and diet, pushing him to eat healthier. Back off that chocolate chip ice cream, pal. Jill and Joe Biden keep an eye on one another's schedules for the sake of balance, says a White House official. They're far from the only couple in the administration who do that. Since the public and Biden's voter base have increasingly expressed concern over his mental fitness, his age has become a punchline multiple times. He's actually telling jokes about it. Try being 110 and doing it again, he said. I know I'm 198 years old, he said another time. I've never been been more optimistic about our country's future in the 800 years I've served. So he jokes about it, but I mean, he doesn't seem to think that it's an issue. I mean, what was it the other day? He said, why are you getting beaten by Trump? You're looking at the polls, and he doesn't seem to indicate, and he said, well, you're looking at the wrong polls. Here's another story, and this is the Axios story that was referenced in that previous story. President Biden's reluctant to acknowledge his physical limitations at age 81 is causing some tension on his team as senior aides, First Lady Jill Biden, push him to rest more and be vigilant about his health going into 2024. Goes on to talk a little bit about, what's going on. The president, Jill Biden and her team are deeply involved in the president's day-to-day schedule. See, I lay this on Jill Biden. I mean, at some point it becomes elder abuse, doesn't it? Jill Biden, should have the common sense to say, you need to maybe rethink this, Joe. Joe's working too hard, Jill would tell Biden then Chief of Staff Steve Ricchetti. Joe Biden recalls in his memoir. He's exhausted. He's not sleeping. It's going to kill him. And so Biden wrote that 2 of them would conspire to get me to ease off for a while. All right. Axios. From the Washington Times, Biden in free fall with young voters, new polls reveal. Recent polls have delivered a major warning to President Biden, showing his support among young voters is not only slipping, but they're flocking to former President Donald Trump. A New York Times Siena College poll released Tuesday found Mr. Trump leads Mr. Biden 49-43 among voters 18 to 29. That's a group that traditionally has voted, very liberal, has voted in favor of Democrats. Marks the first time Mr. Trump has been ahead of his successor among young voters since Mr. Biden took office. Survey also shows a severe decline in enthusiasm among young voters for the president ahead of the 2022 midterms. Separately, an NBC News poll last month found Mr. Biden approval rating among voters 18 to 34 is 31%, a sharp drop from 46 in September. In September, that same demographic thought about 46, nearly half of Americans in that age group felt like he was okay. But since then, it's gone down dramatically, and that's a big drop. A Harvard University poll released last week shows that 18 to 29-year-olds, Mr. Biden's approval rating stands at 35%. His numbers are really his approval numbers. I'll get to some of that in a minute. From thehill.com, President Biden needs to change his campaign messaging as he is losing ground every month, says one Democrat pollster. Stanley Greenberg said Monday in an interview on CNN's Inside Politics that Biden's campaign needs to focus on telling voters how he plans to deal with rising inflation, holding large companies accountable, and how they will address profiteering among politicians. Well, he's one who's been profiteering, right? Despite some recent positive indicators about the economy, Greenberg said, the only thing that matters among voters is how many months they have struggled to deal with inflation. This comes as a recent poll found more than half of voters feel worse off personally during Biden's presidency. See, once that sets in the mindset, people start to say, it's not been good since he took office. It's awful hard to change people's mind about that kind of thing. They have an opinion. It has settled in to the point where they will voice it, and they simply won't back away from it. It takes an awful lot. Approval rating on Monday with 34% saying they approve of his job performance, and 66%, basically 2/3 of the nation saying they disapprove. All right, Squad Democrat Ilhan Omar reveals that she delivered a personal warning to Biden. Ilhan Omar said she warned President Joe Biden that the Muslim vote was very important to a successful 2020 election and that he should listen to their concerns over the Israel-Hamas war ahead of the 2024 election. She's a member of the Squad, of course, and she's in an interview with Minneapolis CBS station WCCO on Sunday said she told the president he needs to reevaluate how he supports Israel in the conflict, invoking images of young children's bodies. And I think Biden listens to this. It's going to be hard to go through and get the electoral college votes you need if you lose Minnesota and Michigan, where there are many Arab and Muslim voters. I don't know how you win without going through those two states. And he knows that. And so he's walking this tightrope. He's trying, I think, to be supportive of Israel, but not too supportive because it irritates, all of the Muslim voters. And if you're too much the other direction, then you irritate all the Jewish voters. And those are two groups that have traditionally voted Democrat. So he got 69% of the Muslim vote in 2020. Donald Trump got 17%. So I don't think the Muslim voters are likely to vote for Donald Trump, but I think they might not vote at all or vote for one of the third-party candidates, and that's where you see, people pulled away from Biden, because there's going to be 3, 4, 5 candidates on the ballot in most places. You want to know how bad it is? Chris, you want to know how bad it is for Joe Biden right now?
How bad is it?
Even Kamala Harris is now viewed more favorably than Joe Biden. That's, unbelievable. Americans may have found something they like less than a hypothetical Kamala Harris presidency, 4 more years of Joe Biden. New poll out Monday shows the Veeps, that's what they call a vice president, a Veep. I've never understood that. The Veep's favorability rating inching above the commander-in-chief for the first time. Monmouth poll showed the 81-year-old Biden receiving just 34% approval rating, the lowest in his polls, tracking down 20 percentage points from its peak. Harris fares a little bit better. She's at 35. 35.
Burning it up, huh?
Yeah, boy, she's burning it up. Isn't she? 35 for Kamala and 34 approval rating. That's really weak for incumbents. Most concerning for Biden's reelection campaign is his 24 approval rating among independents. You know how I talk all the time about you can't win without winning over some independents. His 24% approval rating among independents, down 14 points from July. I'm not finding in any of this stuff. And look, I don't find other stories that I'm just ignoring. All of these stories are out there today, and they're all aimed at Biden and his low approval ratings and how people feel about the economy and warnings that are being said by people who are loyal Democrats, expressing concerns. The other day, over the weekend, there was an article said to to express the thinking of Barack Obama, saying that he was afraid they were going to lose. They didn't name who said that, but it was somebody who apparently knew the thinking of Barack Obama. Maybe it was Barack Obama himself. I don't know. Sometimes they play that little game. More than 2/3 of Americans disapprove of the president's handling of the twin crisis that had bedeviled his administration: immigration and inflation. Well, they take offense. Remember, we were listening to Karine earlier. They take offense that anybody would suggest that they're not serious about solving the immigration problem. I mean, I guess they're taking a lot of offense. Let's see. What else have I got here in the numbers? Oh, yeah, I got some numbers here. General election. Now, I will tell you, if you look at the past 10 polls, they all favor Trump in the general election matchup. Now, this is general election, popular vote. It's not the way you elect presidents, but it is sort of a metric that traditionally has been looked at. And I think if you look at 10, you'll find this one poll where Biden leads. New York Times Siena poll came out today, general election matchup between Biden and Trump, and they say Biden would win by 2. They do not, if they have the number, they don't share it. They don't have the number of what it would be like in a 4-way or 5-way race. And traditionally, when you look at these races, 4 or 5, people up against each other, the numbers tend to pull from Biden and not from Trump. But compare and contrast that New York Times Siena poll with the poll that came out at the same time by CNBC. They have Trump winning the general election by 6. Morning Consult has Trump winning by 2. And the Real Clear Politics average of polls, which is they take all of the polls and average them together, right now has Trump leading by 3. Now, that's still within the margin of error in most of these polls, but, it could go the other way as well. But it could be really a 3 could be a 6. A 6 could be a 9, when you start adding in the margin of errors, or it might go the other way. It might be in the Real Clear Politics average of poll, they could be off 3 points and it'd still be 3. And remember, again, I want to say this, I always have to say it, snapshot in time, not predictive of what happens in the future, but you look at the trend and you look at the snapshot and it tells you what's going on now, and if you look at several of those polls over time, you get an idea. Is Trump going up or is he going down? Well, Trump's going up, and it's pretty clear that Biden's going down on average. So, again, these numbers are looking pretty favorable. On the Republican GOP nomination, I've said it before, Donald Trump just seems to be on a roll. I don't think anything could stop him at this point from becoming the nominee of the Republican Party. If it is, I don't know what it would be, because every time they try to take a whack at him and they bring another charge, or it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. His numbers go up. He's the Teflon Don. From West Palm Beach, Florida, Reuters, former President Donald Trump's campaign team now projects he could formally clinch the Republican presidential nomination by March 19th. Given his lead in the polls in the early voting states, a senior campaign official said on Monday. The team believes Trump is on track to win 1,478 delegates by then, based on a mix of public and internal polls. That would be more than enough delegates to win a majority of the 2,429 delegates who will select a nominee at the Republican National Committee set for July in Milwaukee. During the last competitive Republican presidential primary in 2016, Trump did not formally win the number of delegates needed until late May. I told you before we get to Tennessee, before Tennessee votes, it's going to be over. Trump holds a commanding lead in the Republican primary ahead of the 2024 White House race. 61%, according to Reuters, of self-identified Republicans said they would vote for the former president in the primary. Number 2, nationwide, Ron DeSantis. I will mention again, just in passing, that Nikki Haley seems to be gaining some strength in New Hampshire, but not enough to overtake Donald Trump. Still a pretty heavy lift. 22 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like someone tells you, well, that thing you want will be ready at 4 o'clock, and you get there at 4 o'clock and it's not ready. People are really tired of that kind of stuff. And if you've had that experience with unreliable vehicle repair shops, you should try Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's supposed to be ready for you, so you're not standing around tapping your toe and waiting. Your time is valuable. You know, Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. That's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead. Loaner cars are very popular. If you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. Eurofix, family-owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
I wanted to touch on the history of Tethered and kind of how it came about.
There was a handful of us that were already using similar equipment. At the time, however, you couldn't just go to the store and buy saddle equipment. It just didn't exist. And selfishly, we just were making gear that nobody else would make for us and that we wanted ourselves. And our goal was just to make enough to break even. You know, fortunately for everybody involved, it took off. It's got an appeal. People really liked it.
When you think of a saddle, that's what I think of. That's the first name that I think of when I hear about a saddle.
For me, I mean, the reason I got into it was I'm hunting public land, and most of the time I'm going pretty deep. Being lightweight and mobile was huge. I walk in with a pack and my bow. That's it. The more I did it, I was like, man, there's so many features here that are helping me improve as a hunter, where I can take different shot angles and stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I feel safe with this rope all the time.
Yeah.
From the ground up, I'm hooked in. If I fall off this thing, I'm just going to swing a little bit. And I think the learning curve is small. It's just about getting comfortable with your equipment. It's the biggest thing. And for me, it's repetition and then fine-tuning that to meet my needs. And that's the cool thing. What I like and what might meet my needs might be a little different from you. And even though we're doing the same thing, you can tweak it to meet your needs. And I really like that aspect about it.
But we've done a really good job of just innovating and creating products that don't exist. You're seeing the growth of the sport. You're seeing the innovation. And you're seeing all of these cool things that we make, and it's because we actually use it.
Lots of police resources used in what ended up being a false threat for an active shooter last night at a Tennessee mall. Identities could be revealed in the Jeffrey Epstein flight log case and the money news. Those stories, 4:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
It's 26 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk. AAA is estimating that some 2.7 million Tennesseans will travel at least 50 miles from their homes on Christmas. Or for this Christmas holiday. This year's holiday travel predictions from AAA are higher than they've ever been, with a 3% increase from last year and the second highest year-end travel volume since 2000. AAA says more than 2.5 million Tennesseans will drive to their destination over the holidays. 74,000 are expected to take a flight. Or you can get on the highway, especially out where I live, and you can be flying down the highway, which is sort of a combination of the two, don't you think?
Watch out.
74,000 people are taking flight. So they have provided for our perusal what they think are some of the best and worst times to travel. And you know, that whole week is sort of interesting because, you know, Christmas falls on Monday. So a lot of people will travel on Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday will be a busy travel. I think Friday will be a busy travel day. You say that your kids are technically supposed to be at school Wednesday, but
yeah, tomorrow is, I think, like a half day in Sumner County or something like that. But yeah, my kid's teachers told him, don't come to school tomorrow, please, because they're trying to, you know, get all their stuff changed over for the end of the semester and all of that stuff. So they would rather not have kids there, I think, tomorrow.
All right. Well, you know, I think that'd be a good plan. Saturday, the 23rd, the worst time to travel is between 11 and 7 p.m. The best time to travel is before 10 a.m. Sunday is you know, going to be a very slow travel day. So, you know, if you want to take advantage of, I think last minute, I love to fly when nobody else is flying. I mean, if I have done Christmas trips on Christmas Day, it's a great time to fly, you know, and so I would fly back to DC on Christmas Day, and it'd be like 3 people on the plane.
That's fun.
I mean, it is fun, and by the way, the crews are in a pretty good mood because they're making triple overtime, you know, or something. They're making a lot of money on those holidays. Let's see. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the 26th. Some people will be on the road. They say the worst time to travel between 1 and 5. But if you want to travel before noon, you'd be all right. Basically, the rest of, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week, and even into Saturday, the best time to drive is before noon. If you get into the afternoon, you're going to end up, they say, with heavier traffic. Sunday, the 31st, that's New Year's Eve. Minimal traffic is expected. Monday, good day to I don't know if it's a good day to drive, but I think it's a good day to fly. You know, Monday night, people will be out there partying. Well, December 31st and into Monday, they'll be partying. So I don't know.
They'll all be hung over on Monday.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, I don't know. But anyway, they say minimal traffic expected on Sunday and Monday, December 31st and Monday, January 1st. So there you go. You know, some advice from the folks over at AAA. A lot of people are going to be on the roads. And by the way, when I went downtown today and back, a lot of state patrol. A lot of state patrol. So that was my observation. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, we're still reeling from the effects of the tornadoes. More than this story from WSMV, more than 800 structures affected by a tornado in Davidson County alone. 800 structures determined that Metro Nashville-Davidson sustained more than $3 million in damage from an EF2 tornado. 3 people killed, 21 injured in that tornado. Nashville Office of Emergency Management and Metro Codes Department have concluded the following assessments. Affected structures, 300. That's 289 residential, 11 commercial. Minor damage, 363 residential, 24 commercial. Major damage, 125, 111 residential, 18 commercial. Destroyed, 45, 33 residential homes and 12 commercial buildings. So that's a lot. And I'm just talking about Davidson County, but 800 structures total were affected by the tornadoes. This story, Mac Maury's been talking about it on the news, and I'm just really overwhelmed by this. 24-year-old Hermitage man arrested Monday night, accused of leading police on a high-speed chase. The guy said he admitted to police, and he was in his Dodge Charger, that he was driving 170 miles an hour. Now, I don't know. He may have been bragging, because a Dodge Charger, they're fast. By the way, he had the reason he was running from police, apparently according to police, guns, money, drugs. I mean, everything that you don't want to have in a car when you're being chased by police, he had in that car. And he's charged with vehicle theft, 2 counts of evading arrest, 3 counts of drug possession, 2 counts of weapon possession, 2 counts of drug paraphernalia, reckless driving, do you think, and drug possession without a prescription, being held on a $278,000 bond. You know, look, let me just tell you something. In Davidson County, you can outrun a squad car. You cannot outrun their helicopter. That's how they tracked him. They just back off and they let the helicopter do the work. So they're gonna find you.
Don't need to endanger any other lives on the road. We'll just have the helicopter go out and do it.
Yeah, we'll just follow you in the helicopter, and we'll keep and they're very good at it. They can track really well. Yeah, you're not gonna beat the helicopter. Used to be, they said you might outrun my Chevrolet, but you're never gonna outrun my two-way. Well, that was the old saying. Now it's you're never gonna outrun my helicopter. 33, I'm sorry, Mac, I went way over there. 33 past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.33 past the hour, 4 o'clock. Mac Maury with your top stories. 40 degrees, sunny in Nashville. Weather forecast, traffic report just ahead, 5 minutes away. Goodletsville police say that it took almost 3 hours last night to go through Rivergate Mall after what turned out to be false reports of an active shooter came in. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik got to speak with officials about resources used last night to ensure safety.
Here at Rivergate Mall, about half the building is within Goodletsville city limits. The other half is Metro Police's jurisdiction, which is why last night there were lots of police present to make sure everyone was okay.
Goodletsville police say the mall was evacuated last night and no one was found with a weapon. They do not know where the threat came from. However, they say there were multiple posts on social media about a potential active shooter. There were no calls to 911 either.
And all of the officers on duty yesterday in that area did respond, and that means that anyone else who needed help would have had to wait a lot longer because all of them were at the scene, and there still could be charges filed in that case. And a judge has ordered court documents unsealed next month, which could provide the identities of dozens of people linked to convicted child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. The judge is allowing 14 days to appeal the decision. Now over to the money news, Daria Albinger.
Stocks rallied as the markets weighed on another nation's central bank to make a decision on interest rates. The Dow closed up 252 points, still in record territory. The S&P added 28 for the day, and the Nasdaq rose 98. The hope is that Japan's central bank will keep rates easy for investors, leaving them alone or even cutting them, and that other nations will follow suit. The U.S. Fed has already signaled that it could cut rates several times next year. FedEx traded lower for the day after announcing earnings which fell short of analysts' expectations. Speaking of shipping, if you still haven't ordered any of your holiday gifts yet, some of America's biggest retailers are working to increase their shipping speeds to please shoppers who want faster deliveries. Walmart, Target, and Amazon are all in on the shipping wars, a move that could keep them competitive against low-cost China-founded retailers like Temu.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
40 minutes now past the hour. You're listening to The Drive on Tuesday, December 19th. Brian Wilson in the chair. I'll be here all week long, and then I want to just give you a heads up. I'm going to take a week off between Christmas and New Year's, and Matt Murphy's going to be in here.
That's what we hear, yeah.
He'll be in my place, and I thank him for that. It's a lot of this to take a little time with me and Cabana Wife. It's been a busy season. It's been a busy year. I'm just going to try to catch up on some rest and come back ready and refreshed as we head into, when we get back in here, I come back on January 2nd, and then we're just like, at that point, we'll be 13 days from the Iowa caucuses. And so it'll be busy from there. It'll be a long push all the way through the conventions and into the fall. And, we're going to be covering in a big way 2024 elections once we get back. There's a big battle going on right now in Capitol. I mean, they're not there. Nobody's there. I mean, the president's at the White House. He showed up at the White House with Hunter in tow. He came back from Delaware, got off the helicopter, and said, "Hey, well, that's Hunter. What's Hunter doing on the helicopter?" Nobody knew Hunter was going to be on the helicopter. And they got real indignant when people asked, why was he on the helicopter? Well, anyway, you want to hear that? I got it right here. Here's Corrine getting really indignant about that.
Hi, Jackie. Will the White House announce Hunter Biden's presence on Marine One moving forward?
That's something that we've never done. This is the family. The family gets to travel with the president, and that's been the case with every other president. And so it's not something that we have done or we would be doing moving forward.
The answer is short, no. No, we're not going to tell you. Hunter Biden. We don't talk about Hunter Biden. But anyway, there's a big battle going on because, the president wants more money for Israel, wants more money for Ukraine, and the Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate said, no, we're simply not going to do that until you fix the situation on the border. Senator James Lankford, according to Newsmax, says the GOP he's the lead negotiator for the GOP on this, trying to work out this deal. We're clearly not going to have text complete this week to be able to have to vote to pull this stuff together. We'll keep working until we get it done. We're all going to be back in January on this, but it's going to take a while to finish up all the text. His comments came after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer had tentatively set a vote this week on a package, but they're just not going to make it. So the Senate is being told, don't come back until after Christmas. The House is not coming back until after Christmas. We'll work through the Christmas break. I mean, there'll be people working there, but I mean, the rest of the people are all back home. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell added, border security policy is complex, and our colleagues at the negotiating table are clear-eyed about the fact of getting the agreement right and producing legislative text. It's going to require some time. Well, I can get that. I wanted to get it right, but I got to tell you, it's a mess down there right now. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. They've got to tighten up the border. There's no doubt about it. So you're not going to get any money for Ukraine. You're not going to get any money for Israel. And with regard to the Mideast and Israel right now, the Houthi rebels in Yemen have been acting up because they're supportive of Hamas. And they've been terrorizing ships in the Red Sea, pirates. Basically, it's 2023 and we got pirates. And so shipping giants, the people who are shipping oil through that region have decided we're not going to go through the Red Sea. And they're not going to go through the Suez. They're just simply going to go around Africa. I mean, the long way. It adds 3-4 weeks to the trip. And to do that means that stuff that, we're expecting to get into the pipeline is not going to be arriving for 3 or 4 weeks later than anticipated. We're talking about, I read somewhere, something like $38 billion worth of stuff is now being rerouted right now across the world. So they don't have to go through that area where the Houthi rebels are operating. This is an ugly situation. Amid the Red Sea turmoil, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, according to CNBC, on Monday announced the formation of an international task force I mean, we can straighten it out. We can get that stuff going pretty quick, I think. But it's not like the Houthi rebels and the pirates are all that sophisticated, and not that many of them. Just means getting some warships in there and taking care of the problem, cleaning it all up, keeping them on the run, protecting the ships. And if they can do that, then the things will return to normal. But in the meantime, oil is going to be delayed. A lot of those container ships are going to be delayed. And John Kirby was asked today, maybe you want to think about reinstating a terrorist organization designation on the Houthi rebels. He says, yeah, we took that away, but maybe we'll think about that.
The administration thought about redesignating the Houthis as a terrorist organization?
Yeah, we're actually conducting a review right now on whether that's the right course forward. We've talked about that. No decisions made right now.
No decisions made? Well, what decision is there to make? Of course, if they're out there terrorizing people in the Red Sea, I think we can safely call them terrorists. Call them terrorists and then, change the designation. It's like it's filling out a piece of paper, checking a box. I don't understand that. But U.S. warships, in addition to being into that region to try to keep some people who might otherwise get involved in the Israeli-Hamas battle at bay, now they're going to be working to clear the way for shipping in the Red Sea and through the Suez Canal. By the way, got two problems in the world right now when it comes to moving goods by ship. You got the Red Sea. And nobody wants to go in there right now, and so they're rerouting, and literally they have to ship all the way around the Horn of Africa. It's really quite something. And then the other thing is the Panama Canal is not operating at peak efficiency because apparently there's a drought in Panama, and they don't have enough water to fill the canal, and some ships, especially those that draw deep, can't get through. So there's a lot of traffic and then you have to go all the way around South America. That's a long trip. So I would say this: you're going to see in the next few weeks and maybe up to a month or two, because of those two things on the world stage. Goods are not going to get to market as quickly as things that are on order may be on order quite a while if they're coming from far away places around the world. But yeah, that's going to be that's an ugly thing. But the ships, I think this will be nothing for the military to take care of. It's just you got to get them there. You got to get organized. You're working with other international organizations. Other countries are going to be there trying to protect passage for their ships. You just have to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And the Houthi rebels, they come around on fast boats. They're not. It's not like they're not. They're not in warships or anything. I think we have the manpower to solve the problem with the Houthi rebels. And by the way, U.S. forces in the region still coming under attack, and sometimes because of the Houthi rebels and others in the region firing on U.S. forces that are splayed about the Mideast. We have them all over the place, and they're still coming under attack. I think 90-some attacks so far. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
The Senate taking their break for the holidays, gun crime in Tennessee, the ripple effects continuing over the tornadoes from over a week ago now, and homelessness rising in the state. Those stories coming up. 5 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
I want to tell you the story of Jessica Vincent. She's in a Virginia thrift store. She's basically at the Goodwill, and she's going through a bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of kitchen stuff and measuring cups and just a bunch of stuff that didn't really look like it had much value. But she saw a pretty, jar, sort of a bottle, and she noticed that it had markings that indicated it came from Italy, and so she paid $3.99 for it. And then she went back and started doing a little research, and she then contacted an auction house, and that $3.99 purchase ended up being worth $107,100.
Whoa!
It turns out this is a very rare kind of thing. It was a special kind of glass blowing technique in which they infuse color in the glass as it's being blown, and it's incredibly difficult to do. The people told her that, you know what, I've only seen one other one like this, and it's in a museum. And if it had a chip, it would have been worth about $10,000. But because it was in such good condition, it's worth $107,100. By the time she pays off the commission to the auction house, she walks away with $87,000.
Why can't I ever find stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd probably throw something like that away.
Yeah. I don't know. Chunk it and you hear it break as it hits the trash can. Yeah, well, this couldn't be worth it. That'd be my luck. But no, it's quite a deal. She says she's not independently wealthy, and so she is happy to have the money. She's going to put in a heating system in her home.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah. It is 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. We got 2 more hours to go here on the drive. We'll be back after the news at the top of the hour. It's 4:58. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you will know how much it costs before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits and 3 basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you were to marry this with a high-deductible insurance plan, it could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. A nice 1-2 punch to give you some decent coverage. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. No long wait times or crowded waiting rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868, to schedule a visit.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 39 degrees in Nashville. We'll let you know what tonight and tomorrow's weather looks like in the full forecast and a traffic report 5 minutes away. The Senate Majority Leader hoped that he would be able to shepherd a bipartisan agreement this week on border policy to allow for the passage of aid to Israel and Ukraine, but those hopes have faded, as Stephen Portnoy reports.
He canceled a week of recess in the hopes a bill could come up for a vote this week. But now Chuck Schumer says that won't happen.
Our goal is, as soon as we get back, to get something done.
Even as he points to progress in the ongoing talks, an agreement on new immigration policy remains out of reach.
We know that this is going to be not easy to do.
Progressives worry that Democrats may be giving up too much ground in the talks on asylum, expedited removal, and parole. Schumer says Democrats will stay true to their principles, but they recognize there is a problem on the border.
Gun crime in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a 17-year-old son was injured from an accidental shooting. A man now facing felony charges after he stood up from his couch, causing his firearm to accidentally discharge. His son was hit in the stomach, sustained non-life-threatening injuries. Officials later determined that the gun 33-year-old Deshaun Thorpe had was stolen and that he was under the influence when this occurred. He's now in jail on an $8,000 bond. And right now, staying in Tennessee, the ripple effects continue from the tornadoes that happened over a week ago. Channel 4's Danielle Ledbetter talked to a family that just got their power back after 9 days in the dark.
The Sanchez family said being without power for that long was terrible because it was cold. Leticia Sanchez says it was so cold, they left their home and stayed in a small house with 3 other families. There were 17 people there in total. Last night, the power finally came back on.
And that Madison woman said that she was thrilled once the power did come back. NES says that there's still around 100 homes with no electricity. And News 2, staying in Tennessee, says that based off of data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, that as of January of this year, over 9,000 Tennesseans were experiencing homelessness. That's an over 12% decrease in last year's number, but it's still much larger than any previous years. Nationwide, homelessness increased by about 12% between 2022 and this year, and that's the largest increase that's ever been recorded nationwide. More than half of all people experiencing homelessness in the nation during that time were in 4 states: California, New York, Florida, and Washington. And looking at veteran homelessness, Tennessee had the second highest numerical increase in homeless vets between 2020 and this year. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everyone. It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Time to turn on the Christmas lights and the Christmas trees and plug in your inflatables. Really, honestly, they really look embarrassing when they're just sitting there like a big puddle on the ground. And, they look like the witch in the Wicked Witch of the West after, they threw water on her.
That's not a good look.
They look like a big melted puddle.
If you had to go through the trouble of, installing them, you need to have them inflated.
I have some very sad pictures of my last two inflatables.
Uh-oh.
That bit I think one of them survived, but one of them bit the farm yesterday. It's not good.
Oh.
I'm giving up on the inflatables. I got to come up with something else. I don't know what it's going to be.
We need some solid steel outdoor decorations.
I'll bring in the welding crews and start working on something, next summer. It's crazy just how nuts the left is, and this global warming people. I mean, they take things to extremes. I mean, first I remember they're telling me that the major problem in the world today apparently it was cows. Cows emit a lot of methane, not so much where they actually burp a lot. Did you know that cows burp?
I did not know that.
They burp and they do other things as well. And between the two, they emit a lot of methane, which contributes to global warming. And so, that's one of the reasons why the global warming people want you to not eat beef or other animals, because they can contribute to global warming. You're not going to believe this next story. I mean, finally, they've gone too far. They went too far a long time ago as far as I'm concerned, but you're not going to believe this. From climatedepot.com, a new government-funded study out of Britain conducted by scientists at the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology purports to show that human breathing is contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. That's right. If you want to stop global warming, you've got to stop breathing right away. Just, take a deep breath and hold it.
I think the computers are finally taking over, and they realize that we're the problem.
We're the problem. If you truly are committed, and I would say to anybody out there who believes that we're all going to die because of global warming, that you can do your part by holding your breath and not ever breathing again. Just take a deep breath and just hold it as long as you possibly can, and and then never breathe again. It would make the world a better place, I think. Well, I mean, obviously, we're the contributing factor. I mean, who knew that people were the cause of so much of this problem? I'm just going to read this to you because it's so unbelievable that they even did this study. And it was a study, as I said, done in Britain. Exhaled human breath can contain small elevated concentrations of methane and nitrous oxide, both of which are known to contribute to global warming. Well, I mean, if it's just a small amount, you'd think, well, that's not much, but there's so many people. Exhaled human breath can contain small elevated concentrations of nitrous oxide, which contribute to global warming. The emissions from humans are not well understood and are rarely quantified in global greenhouse gas inventories. So they have a study to investigate the emissions of CH4 and N2O, that's methane and nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide, that's the stuff they give you when you go to the dentist office, right? Oh, I like that
Nitrous,
stuff.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I like that stuff. How can that be a bad thing? Have you ever gone? I mean, nitrous is a wonderful thing.
I haven't had the pleasure.
You've never had nitrous oxide?
Not that I can recall, no.
I've had it. With dental surgery, because I'm a wimp when it comes to pain. I mean, and Cabana wife, she's a dental hygienist, and I said, "You're going to clean my teeth?" She said, "Yeah, it's going to hurt. Yep, give me some nitrous.
Crank it up.
Crank it up, baby." They put that little thing over your nose. And the next thing you know, nothing matters anymore.
Sleepy time.
That's right. Okay. Anyway, they decided this study investigated emissions of methane and nitrous oxide in human breath from 104 volunteers in the UK to better understand what drives these emissions and to quantify national scale estimates. A total of 328 breath samples were collected. Age, sex, dietary preferences, and smoking habits were recorded for every participant. The percentage of methane producers, known as MPs, identified in the study was 31%. The percentage of MPs was higher in older age groups. Well, you got to kill off the old people. They're the problem. We can't have any old people because they're breathing and they're emitting too much methane and nitrous oxide. The percentage of MPs was higher in older age groups, with 25% of the people under the age of 30 classified as MPs compared to 40% of the 30-plus age group. Females, you might think that guys blow a lot more hot air than women do, but that's not true. Females were more likely to be methane producers than males.
They talk a lot more than women. Talk a lot more than men.
Females 38%, males 25%, though overall concentrations emitted by both methane-producing groups were similar. All participants were found to emit nitrous oxide in breath, though none of the factors investigated explained in the difference between emissions. Dietary preference was not found to affect methane. Well, I disagree with that, but not from breath. Dietary preferences can create a lot of methane. We estimate, well, they go through, they give a bunch of stuff here, but I mean, they actually went and measured 328 breath samples to try to then extrapolate how much methane and nitrous oxide is emitted into the atmosphere by the simple act of breathing. I don't know how many people there are, but there's a lot of people. So, here's, we often suggest that we, here on this program, we like to do those things, when you're stuck in traffic or something, we say deep cleansing breaths. We can't do that anymore. Because if you take deep cleansing breaths, you are contributing to greenhouse gases. You can't do that anymore.
So just inhale and just hold it.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. Then you pass out, and then you breathe uncontrollably. So that's not going to work. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do, because apparently what we have to do is find a way to exist without breathing. Funny how the good Lord made us. All the animals in the world and humans, they all breathe. What a shame that is.
Need to put some smart people on that. Figure that out. How can we keep living without breathing?
I don't know. I don't know how we're going to fix that problem, but I'm not making out. Stop breathing, everyone. If you care about the environment, if you care about the, climate change and all that, let's just get the people who say that they really care about it to stop breathing, and I think we'd all be better off. You group over here, you're really concerned about climate change. Al Gore, don't breathe anymore. That would be good. Greta, what's that woman, that kid's named Greta?
Oh, yeah. Thunberg or something?
Yeah, whatever. She can't breathe anymore. And this, if you really are serious, then you've got to stop breathing. I choose to breathe. I'll just, whatever the consequences of me breathing are, I will continue to breathe. You all have to make your own decision. This is ridiculous.
Pressure's on.
The pressure's on. That's right. In other news, talking about the West Coast, the loony left over in what we call the loony left coast, and Hollyweird and all that stuff out in California. People are leaving California by the droves, and guess where they're landing? You may think it's Tennessee, but it's really, to some degree, some people from California are ending up in Tennessee, no doubt. But the big two states that are picking up a lot of people from California are Texas and Florida. From thehill.com, more people moved to Texas and Florida among the 50 states in 2023, while New York and California experienced declines in their population, new census data has found. Texas added more people to its population than any other state, according to the new census report published Tuesday. It found the state's population grew. Are you ready? How Texas grew by a lot. 473,453 people. So about 475,000 people in 2023 moved from California and New York to Texas. Florida followed Texas for the strongest population growth, adding 365,205 residents. Texas and Florida already represent the second and third most populous states in the United States, with 30.5 million and 22.6 million residents, respectively. 30 million in Texas, 22 million in Florida. The population increase last year represents a 1.6% population growth for both Texas and Florida. That's pretty amazing. New York lost 101,000, almost 102,000 people. California's declined. I guess there were some people that moved to California, but ultimately they lost about 75,000 people. California is still the most populous state in the country, but I don't know how long that's going to last if they keep losing people like that. U.S. migration returning to pre-pandemic levels, and drops in death are driving the nation's growth. Births declined as tempered by the near 9% decrease in deaths. People are living longer, and although there are not as many people being born. So that, there you go. I guess, people are living longer, which means older people are breathing more and causing more methane and nitrous oxide into the air, and that's the problem. I don't know how long we can last, ladies and gentlemen, as long as we all keep breathing. I never thought that breathing was the problem, but who knew? And methane, if they think they got methane coming out of my breath, they haven't been around me very long. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to lead that before I get into trouble. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management say, well, it can be a little scary, we know. But here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. Here's the number. I'm going to say it once, and you need to get a pencil and write it down. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, you have nothing to lose. This doesn't cost you a penny to go through this process. Nothing to lose except for the worry. So get started today by calling that number that I gave you, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
Some breaking news from the Colorado Supreme Court concerning Donald Trump and his eligibility to run in the Republican presidential primary ballot. Some possible legislation in Tennessee, and the State Department today strengthening their ties to the Smithsonian. We'll tell you all about it. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right. It's time for Mac Morey's Wide World of Sports, or the Wide World of Sports with Mac Morey, depending on what day it is. We need to settle that question, I'm sure.
And
now
days.
Here is the host of our program. You know him, you love him. You can't live without him. It's the incomparable Mac Morey, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it is a wide world of sports. It's also a wild world of sports. So really, either one works. Both are true.
It's a wild world. That's right. It's Mac Morey's world. We're just all living in it. That's the way I live.
Bingo. That's it. Thank you.
All right. So I didn't get the memo today, so what's up?
Well, I figured we could spend a little bit of time on some baseball, and then I've got another topic if time pertains. If not, no worries. Permits, rather. But I'm talking
baseball.
about... Yeah, I know. This is rare for me.
Baseball been very, very good to me.
This is a little rare on my side, but it's such big news. We haven't talked about it. I'm a little late on this, so I figured we would just discuss Shohei Ohtani. Just signed a record-breaking deal, 10 years, $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you don't know Ohtani, he's probably the best pitcher in the league. He's one of the best hitters in the league. Like, this is a modern day, and I don't even know if this has ever been done. Did Babe Ruth even do this? Like
Babe Ruth, yeah. He's the only name that comes to mind.
That
was that two-way baseball player. Yeah, I mean, pitchers don't hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pitchers don't hit, and he's like a leadoff type hitter. I mean, he's
a slugger.
He's incredible. Yeah. So this is a 10-year, $700 million contract. Part of the interesting...
Are you saying $700 million?
That's correct.
Holy moly,
guaranteed.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, guaranteed. So that's obviously $70 million per year, but in an effort to enable the Dodgers to continue spinning around their stars, Ohtani agreed to defer all but $2 million of his annual salary. So $68 million of his annual $70 million per year will be completed after the actual contract is over. So the deferred money is going to be paid out without interest from 2034 to 2043.
Well, how in the world will he ever get by on $2 million a year? I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's going to have to cut back a lot.
Now, when does he get paid? Does he get paid like? Is it like, saving it until he retires?
The deferred money will come 2034 to 2043. So really, whatever he wants to do with that $68 million per year, when that time comes, is up to him. But yeah, they're deferring it, and it has to do with. I'm reading up about it a little bit here, but something called the CBT, or the luxury tax is called in the NBA. But basically, deferring that money lessens...
Till he moves out of state and cannot face that tax.
That's another.
Yeah,
yes,
well, he may
exactly.
be coming to Nashville then.
And for the team too, they don't have to pay that luxury tax on that $70 million per year.
Yeah.
Right now.
Allows them to spend money on other players now as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So. So that's unprecedented. We've seen people defer contracts and in large sums, but nothing like this. I mean, the next largest contract in the league is Mike Trout, who was his former teammate with the Los Angeles Angels. He's at a $426 million contract. So add almost $300 million to that.
That's nuts.
And then you've got Shohei Ohtani.
He's a great player. There's no doubt about that. He's one of these one-of-a-kind sort of unicorn players. But come on. He's not worth $700 million. He will never earn that $700 million. Never. I mean, he's just because he's if he's going to continue to pitch and hit, he's going to end up getting hurt again. Like he suffered an injury this past season and was out for a good while. It's for the splash and for the immediate impact. He'll never earn most of that money.
Well, and you got to think
he's going to get it though.
Oh, and you got to think about the Dodgers, their perspective, ticket sales. I mean, this is the biggest baseball player in the world.
Yeah,
forget the United States. Yeah. The world is all about Shohei Ohtani because, like you said, he's a unicorn. We've never seen him do this, but I don't know how you're going to be able to earn this. And speaking of the injury, I don't even know if he's going to be able to pitch right away next year. He may
Probably
just be
not,
a hitter, which is, obviously he's still one of the best at that. But what really makes him so admirable is his pitching ability. So. Yeah, it's a very interesting contract, and the Dodgers now have a super team as far as I see it.
And to put this into perspective, Brian, I saw this graphic. It's a 10-year, $700 million. So obviously, it's if you break it down, basically it's $70 million a year, even though with the deferment like we talked about. There are major league teams that have less have a less salary for the entire team.
Wow,
than $70 million. Less than $70 million. It's just like one player is going to get a whole team's worth of salary.
And that's always been, that was the whole premise of the movie Moneyball, is that, the teams are so unequal with how much money they can produce for, to build the team and to pay the team. And there are always going to be teams that are, well-funded and those teams that are not well-funded.
Yeah. And tickets are already like, what, $1,000 for the first few games of the season or whatever.
Wow.
Just to get on the field. I don't know. It's just
you can't even afford peanuts and Cracker Jack when you go to if you pay that kind of money.
And there were some reports because he was very, some players are, very out in the open and public about their free agency tours. Here's where I'm going next. Oh, I'm going here to this and meeting with all these people. He was very under the radar, low key. No one knew who he was talking to. No one knew what the money discussions were about. But apparently, some reports and they have not been verified have come out saying that, San Francisco was in big talks and they wanted him, but he said he wouldn't go to San Francisco because he didn't like the city because of the crime and everything. And I'm thinking, well, you're in Los Angeles, buddy. I don't know, but
I don't know.
Okay.
6 of one, half a dozen of another.
Exactly.
All right. Well, listen, that's our sports segment. Time to take off the sports hat, put on the news hat, because it's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.
5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 37 degrees right now in Nashville. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way, 5 minutes. Got some breaking news. The Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump cannot be on the Republican presidential primary ballot for the January 6, 2021 riot on the Capitol. The ruling was 4-3, and it'll likely now go to the U.S. Supreme Court to decide. And in the nation's capital during today's White House press briefing, National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby elaborated on Operation Prosperity Garden, protecting commercial ships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden while the Israel-Hamas war is underway. Karen Travers.
The White House says the new multinational naval task force meant to protect commercial ships in the Red Sea from Houthi missile and drone strikes needs time to show it can work. National Security spokesman John Kirby.
Well, now it just started, didn't it? And there's going to be a whole lot of hardware in the Red Sea now, naval hardware, not just from the United States, but other ships from other nations, to counter these threats.
Houthi militants in Yemen are believed to have carried out nearly a dozen attacks on commercial shipping, including companies the Houthis claim are linked to Israel.
And another ceasefire in Gaza looking unlikely right now. The administration pushing for smaller, more localized, more targeted humanitarian pauses to try and get hostages out and get more aid in. And back here in Tennessee with some possible legislation, Fox 17 reports of a proposed bill that would make it illegal to display any flag other than the United States and the official Tennessee state flags in your child's public school classroom. If passed, teachers and schools would be prohibited from displaying the pride flag or transgender flag. The bill was filed for introduction on November 15th of this year. It's sponsored by Representative Jenna Bolso of Brentwood. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I mean, it's chilly. It's chilly. The cold weather has arrived. It came late, but it's here. And if you are finding that your heating system is just not getting the job done, you wake up and it's a little cold in your house, why don't you call the number I would call, 775-7833. That's the number to Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And HVAC, they'll come out to your house and they'll take care of that problem. They'll buzz right over. Now, listen, the way you avoid having real problems with your heating and cooling systems and in your plumbing systems as well is to be doing some preventative maintenance, to check on the systems once in a while. And that's what the Beehive Club is all about. Starts at around $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. Never any overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 615-775-7833. Learn more online at busybeehvac.com. Hey! Have a Merry Christmas, all you swingers out there. Who is this?
I have no idea.
Well, that's jazzy stuff there.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's really, I like that. I like big band music when it's done well. I was dialing around today, listening to, different kinds of music on my system at home, and it's like I came across some 40s music, and that big band stuff.
Oh yeah,
that whole Tommy Dorsey thing, that was pretty good. I like it. I wish I wonder what it'd been like, because back then you had to know how to dance.
Well, you didn't have to.
Well, I mean, but if everybody did. Yeah. My dad, I never saw, all the years I was being raised, I never saw my dad ever dance.
Mm-hmm.
But I stumbled into some old film the 16 millimeter film, that everybody had back in the day before videotape and all that. And I put it on a projector and I looked at it and my dad is dancing. I'm going, wow, I never saw that coming.
Was he doing the Charleston or something?
I don't know what he wasn't that old, but I mean, he was doing the dances of the day. And this was probably back in the would have been the late 40s or early 50s. Yeah.
He's probably swinging.
He man had a move. I did not get any of that. He's dancing with my aunt, which raises all kinds of questions. I'm not even going to go there. Okay. This story just broke. You heard it in the news that Trump has been kicked off the Colorado ballot having to do with the 14th Amendment case. I need to bring a little perspective here. Let me give you the basic facts, and I'll tell you why I don't think it's much to worry about. Colorado's highest court Thursday knocked former President Trump off the state Republican primary ballot under the 14th Amendment in a 4-3 ruling, making it the first state. There have been many who have considered this, but this is the first state to block him from seeking the presidency because of his role, they say, in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. It's a major blow to Trump. The court affirmed he engaged in insurrection by inflaming his supporters with false claims of election fraud and directing them to the Capitol, preventing him from a second White House term under the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause. Now, look, this has been tried in many states. This is the first time it ever stuck. It was tried in Michigan, rejected, completely rejected out of hand. Let's see, where are the other places that it's been tried? I'll get to it in a minute. The court put its ruling on hold until January 4th so Trump can seek review from the Supreme Court. If he does, Trump's name automatically remains on the ballot until the justices resolve the appeal. The court wrote in a 4-3 decision, "We do not reach these conclusions lightly." The court wrote, "We are mindful of the magnitude and weight of the questions now before us. We are likewise mindful of our solemn duty to apply the law without fear or favor, and without being swayed by public reaction to the decisions that the law mandates we reach. If allowed to take effect, Colorado's Secretary of State may not list Trump's name on the 2024 presidential ballot, nor may she count any white write-in votes cast for him. The unprecedented decision all but ensures a dramatic legal battle at the High Court ahead of the 2024 election, in which Trump is the undisputed Republican frontrunner. That's according to thehill.com. The High Court has not ruled on the controversial clause, which prohibits the holding of any office under the United States if a person engaged in insurrection after swearing to support the Constitution as an officer of the United States. I have heard the legal arguments here, and people who are way smarter than I have simply said this was a Civil War era piece of, amendment to the Constitution. And really had to do with people who had served in the Confederate military. It was really aimed at them. And that one of the things is that one of the things that I think that it eliminates this is that the president is not an officer of the United States. He's an elected official, which there's a difference, a legal difference, as I understand it. In Colorado, 4 Republican and 2 independent voters backed by left-leaning groups Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington cited the provision in their lawsuit seeking to prevent another Trump term. Similar cases, here we go, have been brought in states including Michigan and Minnesota, but none have been successful in removing Trump's name from any state's ballot. And I think I'm safe in saying there was an appeal made to the Supreme Court to consider the matter after they ruled in either Michigan or Minnesota, one of the two. And I think the Supreme Court declined to take the measure, which suggested that a majority of the High Court felt like the decision to keep his name on the ballot had been properly decided. But now that the way the Supreme Court gets dragged into this thing is if there are courts that have come up with different rulings. And so therefore, it has to be looked at. By the way, the 7-member bench of the Colorado Supreme Court was entirely appointed by Democrat governors. 6 later faced voters and won retention, while the 7th will do that next year. So this is a very left-leaning Supreme Court in parts of the state very left-leaning. I don't think that this is going to stand. I think that this is way wrongly decided. And most of the great legal minds that I have read on this say the 14th Amendment does not apply in this situation, and anybody who tries to make it apply is really trying to subvert the law. So it looks like, these left-leaning judges were legislating from the bench, but we'll see. The Supreme Court may take it, and if they do, they'll get it resolved. Now, if the Supreme Court says we're not going to take the issue, I don't know what happens then. But again, the Supreme Court of the state of Colorado has decided that Trump's name cannot be on the ballot, although things are on hold, to give former President Trump the opportunity to go to the Supremes if he wants to. Here's one, though, a ruling that I think really is a proper ruling. The Federal Appeals Court has blocked the Biden administration from removing Texas razor wire at the southern border. The Federal Appeals Court handed the state of Texas a win on Tuesday when it temporarily blocked the Biden administration from removing razor wire placed at the border by Texas authorities. This is something they were talking about at the White House even today when Karine Jean-Pierre was talking about what the state of Texas had done. The governor signed a law today saying that they're going to arrest people coming across the border because they have come into the state of Texas illegally, and that they now have a law that says they can be arrested. Now, whether that stands up to court scrutiny, I'm not sure. Most people believe that it's the federal government's job to do that. But, that she was talking about that, and she talked about Texas and how she's deeply offended by what Republicans want to do. Here is Karine Jean-Pierre earlier today talking about that law that Abbott passed and Republicans in general.
Question on the new immigration law in Texas. Does White House have any thoughts on that law? And there appears to be some litigation that's starting over the law as well.
Look, this is an extreme law that will not and does not make the communities in Texas safer. It just doesn't. And I think to add to that is that it is very much in line with what many Republicans like to do or tend to do, which is demonize immigrants and also dehumanize immigrants. This is part of this. And so this is not who we are as a country. This is not who we should be as a country. Communities should not be individually targeted and put into harm's way. And this is what we're seeing. Again, this is something that Governor Abbott has done over and over again. There are plenty of examples that I've listed out from here before, whether it's leaving migrants in the side of the road in the middle of winter, installed razor wire near the border, making it more dangerous for Border Patrol to do their jobs, and placed bayous in the river, making it harder for Border Patrol to do their jobs.
I think she meant boys. Bayous. But anyway, there she is. She's talking about the razor wire. Well, this is what the court has said. A federal appeals court handed the state of Texas a win. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the government is barred during the appeal process from damaging, destroying, or otherwise interfering with Texas's concertina wire fence in the vicinity of Eagle Pass, Texas, unless it's for a medical emergency. The state sued the Biden administration in October over its cutting or damaging of more than 29 miles of concertina wire along the border in order to allow illegal immigrants to enter deeper into the U.S. By cutting Texas's concertina wire, the federal government has not only illegally destroyed property owned by the state of Texas, it has disrupted the state's border security efforts, leaving gaps in Texas border barriers and damaging Texas's ability to effectively deter illegal entry into the territory. The state had installed the wire near key crossings where there have been massive surges of illegal immigration. The federal government has said that once migrants are on U.S. soil, Border Patrol agents must apprehend them, and has claimed the wire inhibits Border Patrol's ability to patrol the border. Now, what I'm reading from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, a federal court, not a state court, is they're saying that them messing with the concertina wire interfered with the state's efforts to protect and deter illegal entry into the country, into the territory. Oh, that's interesting. That's real interesting, because that would mean that Abbott then might have full authority to have this law that he passed saying that if you come into the Texas from Mexico illegally, we don't care whether the Border Patrol arrests you, we're going to arrest you. He signed it into law today. Initially, a federal judge had blocked agents from cutting the razor wire, but then reversed the decision, saying the state hadn't met the requirements for a wider injunction. Texas appealed, and today, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal in Texas found that the wire cannot be damaged or removed. Now, will it go to the Supreme Court? I don't know. I mean, I always understood that the Border Patrol was supposed to have operational control of the border, even if it was a state. But what I'm reading here in this Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is that the state has interests here that can be protected. And by destroying the concertina wire, they were destroying Texas's ability to protect its borders from illegal entry into the state. That's really, really quite interesting. By the way, the situation on the border is really bad. I'll talk a little bit about that more in just a moment. Right now, 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. I want to talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Here's their number. Write it down, 615-246-5009. And they want you to know that now is the time to leave the pain you have in 2023 and get a good start on 2024 with help from the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You see, the 2023 special, it's in its final month. So take this chance to get rid of pain for $23 if you're a new patient. Have you been diagnosed and getting treatment but still have that chronic pain? Did you know that Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley have had tremendous success in correcting or providing additional information that they find when they look at the MRI reports? They can provide you with stuff that others missed and recommend a thoughtful and customized treatment plan. If you are a new patient, bring in your MRI report for analysis, or let Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley do their own x-rays, then get your first treatment for $23 with state-of-the-art therapy and equipment, again, if you are a new patient. You are more than a number at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, and they care about helping you get pain-free. Start now. Take advantage. It's only a few days left to take advantage of the 2023 special. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here in here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you into higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
You know, if you're in the market for a pole barn, you need to talk to the two brothers that run Stoltzko. They are guys who have the answers. They're known for their exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They could build a new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind, and that is the Stoltzko difference. You can use pole barns for a lot of things. You can function as a classic tool or a work barn, a garage, maybe even a place to live. Flexibility is key. What they do is they combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. So to get an idea of some of the things they've done for others, just go to their website, stoltzco.com. Let me spell that for you, STOLTZCO.com, stoltzco.com, and then you'll see that this is not your grandpappy's pole barn. The number, 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Learn more at stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 34 degrees in Nashville. Latest forecast, a traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. The Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump cannot be on the Republican presidential primary ballot for the January 6, 2021 riot on the Capitol. The ruling was 4-3. This will likely now go to the U.S. Supreme Court to decide. And the U.S. Defense Secretary continued his Middle East trip today and spoke with American troops there about what they face with growing conflicts there in the Middle East. Andy Field.
Defense Secretary Austin landing in Qatar at the U.S.'s largest Middle East military base. He was there to give troops a pep talk about risks they and others face with war in Gaza, rebel attacks on ships from Yemen, and Iran's continued threats.
It's about as busy as it gets in the region here.
President Biden working to make sure those troops don't see combat and instead provide enough power to prevent an expanding war.
In Tennessee, Goodletsville police say that it took almost 3 hours last night to go through Rivergate Mall after what turned out to be false reports of an active shooter came in. Channel 4's Marissa Sulik got to speak with officials about resources that were used last night to ensure everyone's safety.
Here at Rivergate Mall, about half the building is within Goodletsville city limits. The other half is Metro Police's jurisdiction, which is why last night there were lots of police present to make sure everyone was okay.
Goodletsville police say the mall was evacuated last night and no one was found with a weapon. They do not know where the threat came from. However, they say there were multiple posts on social media about a potential active shooter. There were no calls to 911 either.
And all of the officers on duty yesterday in that area did respond. And that means that anyone else who needed help or was in danger in a different area may have had to wait longer. There's still going to be charges filed in this case. And in the latest of a series of competing rulings, the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals says the Border Patrol is not allowed to cut the razor wire Texas has installed along the border. Here's Alex Stone.
This reverses a lower court ruling that said the federal government was not breaking the law when Border Patrol agents cut the razor wire set up by Texas to prevent migrants from entering illegally. The Border Patrol argued sometimes agents have to get to the other side of the razor wire or to cut it to get to migrants who are having medical emergencies. The appellate court ruling Border Patrol agents cannot cut Texas's razor wire except to get to migrants who are having medical emergencies.
And that is the latest news, weather, and traffic next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everyone. 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair until about 7 o'clock, where we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. He'll have lots to say tonight. I want to just mention that we are following some breaking news that comes out of the colorful Colorado, the state of Colorado. They have ruled, the Supreme Court there, which is completely made up of Democrat appointees, in a split decision 4-3, they have ruled that Donald Trump cannot be on the ballot. And they cite the 14th Amendment and the so-called insurrection clause. I want to tell you this is a very controversial decision by the Colorado court, because other states have looked at this and they laughed the folks out of court. They said, no, nice try, but the insurrection clause is something that applied to Civil War era politicians, and really, there's no way you can use it to deny someone access to the ballot. But the Colorado Supreme Court has said that yes, you may. And even though this has been thrown out in other courts, it sounds like this might be headed to the high court for the Supreme Court of the land. We'll have to make the call. And Jonathan Turley, I love Jonathan Turley. I think he's really smart. And I think he tells you what he thinks. And by the way, you may not always agree with what he thinks, but he always gives it to you straight. I love it because he reads the law and he interprets the law. And just a few moments ago on Fox News, he said the following about that ruling out of Colorado.
In my view, the court is dead wrong. This is the first major win for these challengers. They've gone to a number of blue states. This is one of the bluest state Supreme Courts you can get to. Even with that, it's split. I think the opinion is really chilling, and I think that the Supreme Court will make fast work of this theory. I hope it does. But I think this court, did great damage to its own integrity with this opinion.
Well, I think so too. I don't think it's going to hold up. I think it sounds like the Supremes are going to have to get into it. And that's what, that's when they sort of don't have much choice when you have something of this magnitude, where you have different courts having different rulings. Now, again, this has been taken to a number of states, a number of blue states, as he said, and each and every time it's been laughed out. In fact, I've talked about this in the past. It's been laughed out of court. That it's a real stretch to try to apply the 14th Amendment of the Constitution in the way that they have applied it now in the state of Colorado. Now, the good news is, while it's on appeal, his name will remain on the ballot. And if they take their sweet time in doing it, it will still remain on the ballot. I have a feeling the high court is going to take it up and do sort of an expedited review. This is because there's a time-sensitive reason to do that in that we are now entering, in just a few days, the election season. And so you need to know whether you're going to be on the ballot or not going to be on the ballot. Then the other ruling that came out today is that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has said that the federal government may no longer cut the concertina wire on the border put up by the Texas Department of Public Safety, the state of Texas, to keep people from coming across their border. And in their ruling said, we think that you don't have the right to keep Texas from defending people from coming into the country illegally. I mean, it's supposed to be the job of the federal government, but the federal government's not doing it. It seems to me they're saying that the Texas has a right to stand up and defend itself from the invasion that's coming across the border. Pretty strong ruling. I think there may be some other interpretations. I mean, Abbott, the governor of Texas, just signed a law saying that in Texas, we now give Texas law enforcement authorities the ability to make an arrest if somebody comes across the border illegally. Now, that's supposed to be the job of the Border Patrol, but they're not doing it. And so Abbott says he went to his state legislature and got it passed. The way I read the interpretation out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, it seems to suggest that Texas does have the ability to defend its border, even if the federal government will not do it. Be interesting to see if that one goes to the high court and what happens there. Speaking of the border, it's a mess down there. You think it can't get any worse, but it just gets worse every day. Bill Maloogian down on the border He says it's the worst he's ever seen it.
And the numbers just keep getting worse. Those 12,600 encounters you mentioned, that is the highest single-day total ever recorded, beating the previous record just a couple of weeks ago. And Eagle Pass is just getting completely overrun. Thousands upon thousands of migrants camped out waiting to be processed by Border Patrol. I can tell you I've spent hundreds of days in Eagle Pass over the last couple of years. I've never seen the situation that bad there. Masses of migrants still camped out there waiting for Border Patrol. The railway bridge has been shut down in the Eagle Pass, also in El Paso. CBP doing that to redeploy personnel to help Border Patrol with migrant processing, and Union Pacific is not happy about that decision. They tweeted in part, quote, Union Pacific urges the Eagle Pass and El Paso border crossings to be reopened immediately. Roughly 450,000 rail shipments move across these two gateways annually. It would take over 1 million trucks to move the same amount of goods. These locations represent 45% of cross-border Union Pacific business and include goods critical to the U.S. economy. So essentially, they are shutting down international commerce in these spots to help speed up migrant processing.
Now Bill Maloogian quoted a number, 12,000 in one day. I've seen other reports that cite actual customs numbers that say the number on Monday was 14,000 in one day. That's the worst it's ever been. I mean, it's never been any worse. And you know why? Because I think the word has gotten around down there that, well, first of all, number one, there's a battle going on in Washington, and the battle is, Mr. President, if you want money for Ukraine and Israel, you're going to have to fix the border. And so the word has gotten around down there that Biden may tighten up on border policy. So they're trying to get across before that happens. That's part of what's going on. I think you raise this in the White House briefing room, and Karine Jean-Pierre gets all indignant and says, you know what, I take great offense at what you're suggesting, that we don't care about the border. Well, it's pretty clear they don't care about the border. I think they do care. They want as many people to come in as possible. But she says, to suggest that we are not trying to do something, well, I find that suggestion offensive. I find her offensive, but here we go.
Well, I'm not going to get to the specific of what's being discussed here. I'm just not going to negotiate from the podium, obviously. But I take offense, and I think the president does too, in saying that we haven't taken this seriously. When you put your first piece of legislation is on immigration to fix the broken system, that is taking it very seriously. When you put
Wait, I'm sorry. I can't let her get away with this. She does this all the time. Well, the very first thing we did when we came into office, we put forth, solutions. Her solutions were to do what they're doing, to basically find a pathway to citizenship for these folks. To let them in and to give them a pathway. That she wanted amnesty. That was their solution. Well, okay. That's all good and fine if you can find the votes for it in Congress, but you're not going to find the votes for it in Congress. They're not going to allow it. And I'm sorry, you don't get to unilaterally make that decision. The border laws that are in effect or should be in effect today are the result of Congress passing a law, and a president somewhere in the past has signed that bill into law, and it becomes a law. I mean, they passed a bill and it became law. Now, if you don't like the way that law is, you have another option. You go back to Congress, say, let's change the law. But they don't do that. No, they just simply, they throw out something they know that Republicans can never accept. And they say, well, we offered, solutions, and I really take offense to suggest that we don't care, because that's the first thing we did on day one. Well, it wasn't a serious proposal. It wasn't one that they knew what would happen. They knew it would be rejected. And so, that whole statement needs to be sort of blown out of the water. But she continues.
When you put out an emergency supplemental, which we put out weeks ago, that has the border, funding for the border, we take that very seriously.
Well, you know what that was? That was just, we need more funding so we can process people faster. That wasn't solving the problem. That was just exacerbating the problem.
And then you have Congress. They put forward H.R. 2. They continue to get in the way, Republicans, to be more clear on actually doing what the president is asking for.
Well, the president doesn't get to unilaterally decide. Oh, God, this makes me so mad. I can't see straight. He's not a king. He's the president of the United States. He took an oath of office to faithfully execute the laws of this country, and he has rejected that responsibility. He's not enforcing the laws of this country. And he knows it. It's maddening. It's maddening that, and they get their own nose and, the Republicans are not trying to solve that. Well, you don't get to unilaterally decide what the solution is. And by the way, you should be angry about this, and I'm going to tell you why. Not only is it a danger to every town and community in this nation that you're bringing in people you don't know anything about. There are 2 million people in this country that we have never had any law enforcement contact since Biden became president. 2 million. Those are the gotaways, the known and unknown gotaways. 2 million. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're up to. So, I mean, that you ought to be mad about that. You ought to be mad about the fentanyl. But what you really should be mad about is this president is not following the laws. Now, those laws started out as a bill on Capitol Hill that was put forward by your elected representatives. And they got the legislation passed in the House, passed in the Senate, and it went to a presidential desk and it was signed. When they circumvent the law, they are circumventing the will of the people and their elected representatives. And you ought to be, you have every right to be PO'd about that. He's not a king. And yet he acts like one. He decides, I know best, and, we're going to do this as long as we can get away with it. And if the courts tell us we can't do it anymore, well, okay, well, how many got through? Millions, 8 million, maybe. 8 million people. And they, their first act as they came across the river, we lose sight of this. Their first act was a violation of law. They have committed a crime the moment they arrive on our shore. And yet we give them a piece of paper and we send them on their way. We send them on their way. We hardly even let them slow down. We're just waving them through. And it's like, somebody that's, come on, let's go. Let's get this line going through here. It is America's this way. Just zip, 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 zip right on through. And it's just ridiculous how this has happened. You should be angry about this. You should be angry that the laws of the nation have been circumvented, that Congress is being circumvented. And so when Republicans say, we're not going to give you any more money, Mr. President, for Ukraine or for Israel or anything else that you want until you solve this problem. Well, it sounds like they're at the negotiating table now. I don't think we're going to have anything until the new year. But I'm telling you, it should not have to come to this. There's a great story here. Let me see if I have just a minute. I'm going to try to get it pushed through while we're talking about this. Reports indicate, this is from New York Post, the reports indicate the White House and Republicans in Congress are at work on a deal that would tighten border security in exchange for okaying aid to Ukraine, and that a major bone of contention is whether to set a trigger point for expedited migrant removals when illegal crossings hit 3,000 or 5,000 a day. The story goes on. If Washington can tell border agents to stop waving in illegals when the total hits some arbitrary threshold, then it can tell them to do it from the get-go. In other words, by dickering over just how many illegal immigrants can come through in a day before the door slams shut, the Biden administration has at long last said the quiet part out loud. The law doesn't actually require treating the word asylum as magic open sesame. Yes, the borders can be closed like that. Snap of a finger, the picking up of a telephone, and making a call. And believe me, if Trump becomes president, that call will be made on day one. And this nonsense is going to come to a stop. 21 minutes now. I'm sorry, I get so irritated about it. It just makes me so mad. 21 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. When it comes to large home repairs, the big stuff, the thing like waterproofing, foundation repair, cracks in the bricks, cracks in the walls, doors and windows that stick, the whole thing. Well, that means that you may have a foundation problem, and, some people don't want to know what the problem is because, well, they are worried how much it might cost. Well, the truth is it could be something big that needs to be fixed. It could also be a small problem. If you fix it now, you avoid a bigger problem that will be a lot more expensive than fixing the small problem. Or it may turn out to be nothing at all, and you have nothing to worry about. The bottom line is, this is an area in which you're not an expert, and you want to call the experts to come in and give you great advice, honest advice. And for my money, that's United Structural Systems, the company that has over 25,000 100% satisfied residential customers. They will come out to your house. They'll give you an assessment of what's going on, and they have the answers. And they will tell you what needs to be done to solve the problem. And then if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. I mean, how easy is that? If you have foundation repair, waterproofing work, and you need to have that done, you need to call the company I would call, United Structural Systems. They guarantee their best. Call USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com, or call this number, 615-488-7855. Thank you, Mac Morey. News coming up here in just a moment. Mac Morey in the newsroom, and there's Chris Weber in the control room, and I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson. You know, this Jelly Roll guy, I don't know. You know, there's so many country stars out there these days. I mean, it's hard to keep them all straight. There's only something about this guy that was distinctive that would make him stand out in a crowd. I don't, you know,
yeah, Just he kind of blends in, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, he's anything but somebody who blends into the crowd. He's really something. I think his music's pretty good. I just I can't get over all the tattoos, but that's just me. I'm old school, But okay, set that aside for a moment. I think he's a pretty good guy.
He's doing good stuff, at least. That's for sure.
Is. He's doing good in the world. Country music star. This is from WSMV Channel 4's website. Country music star Jelly Roll being praised for donating a semi-truck full of toys to a toy drive here in Nashville. The country star held a toy drive from November 1st through December 15th, collecting toys in donation bins at several Walmart stores. The toy drive was so successful that in the end, Jelly Roll had an entire semi-truck full of toys to donate to the Last Minute Toy Store, an annual partnership with Davidson County Sheriff's Office. Nashville Sheriff Darren Hall took to social media to praise Jelly Roll for his efforts. Before CMA Grammy Awards, much of the success he said he wanted to give back. Today, a truck loaded with toys showed up at the Last Minute Toy Store. You are changing music and changing lives, he said. Another public post shared by the Last Minute Toy Store said that the drive needed gifts for some this is really, there's a great need. Apparently I didn't know this. 7,675 kids. And Jelly Roll sends over a tractor trailer full of toys. That's amazing. You got to love a guy whose heart, goes out to these kids who need, can you imagine being a kid and not having anything under the tree on Christmas Day? That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? I've always been blessed. My parents were middle-class people and, probably upper-middle-class folks. They worked hard and they did well. Christmas was a time of extravagance at my house. It's just unbelievable how good we had it. My parents weren't big about spoiling us the rest of the year, but Santa Claus was really good to us.
Absolutely.
He really was. And so I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up on Christmas Day and just find that there's nothing there. And so I love his heart on this. I love that he's doing it. And what a great thing to sort of adopt as your thing. And that we have a community where there are 7,600, maybe almost 7,700 kids who really have that need is surprising to me.
Sad.
It is sad. It is sad. Well, good on you, Jelly Roll, for doing that. I'm liking that Jelly Roll guy a lot more each and every day. It's 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Want to talk to you about gold, which has been used as a form of money for millennia. It is a tried and true store of value, consistent across many generations. Some have suggested that building generational wealth, well, there's 3 ways to do it: land, art, and precious metals. I don't know about land because, interest rates are really high right now. Art, not my area of expertise, but precious metals, it's pretty cool. You can hold it right in your own hand. They are practical solutions, and inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money, and gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have some gold that was given to you. Maybe you inherited some. Maybe you want to know what it's worth. Maybe you're just curious about precious metals and you want to learn more. Well, this is the place you go. They are always available to discuss your options and educate you on the precious metals market. So do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. Learn more by going to their website and set up your one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. And one other thing, if you got precious coins, old silver coins laying around, bring them in. You might find out you'll be surprised at how much they are worth. I certainly was. I had a box in my sock drawer, turned out to be worth, a lot of money. A lot of money. So, check them out. NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. "37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We're into the last few minutes of the drive before Mark Levin takes over after the news at the top of the hour. We're at the bottom of the hour now, so, we're not that far away. I want to do the whole election thing again because the numbers are really interesting. Let me give you the numbers first. These are the latest poll numbers, and this tells you a little bit. There's a lot of fluctuation in some of these numbers. You heard the other day, let's see if I can find that sound from yesterday. It was so interesting to hear Biden saying that the polls were wrong. Remember, somebody yelled at him, hey, why is Trump beating you in the polls?
Mr. President, why are you losing to Trump in the polls?
You're looking at the wrong polls, he said. Well, if you look at the polls out there, and Real Clear Politics lists all the polls, it's hard to find a poll where Biden is leading Trump in the general election number. But New York Times Siena poll came out, and it puts Biden leading by 2. Okay, but I mean, it is like, that's the only one that I see out of a bunch of polls. CNBC asked that question, general election, Trump versus Biden, who do you choose? Trump wins by 6 in that poll. Morning Consult has Trump leading by 2 over Biden, same question. And the Real Clear Politics average of polls has Trump leading by 3. I should just pull, because I thought it was fascinating. Let me pull up all those different polls and take a look at them. Here we go. Give me half a second. I can pull it up. I have it right here at my fingertip. Boom. Here it comes. General election, Trump versus Biden. Okay, let's look at the last, 10 or so polls. You ready? Emerson, Trump wins by 4. NPR, Biden wins by 1. Rasmussen, Trump wins by 10. YouGov, it's a tie. Then we get in the most recent polls. Harris, Trump wins by 4. Morning Consult, Trump wins by 2. Fox News, Trump wins by 4. CNBC, Trump wins by 6. And then this poll I just told you about, the Siena poll, Biden wins by 2. The average, when you go all those numbers and you average them together, it comes out Trump leading over Biden by 3. Now, that's not within the margin of error, but I mean, that might be, for example, if the margin of error is 3 and CNBC says that Trump's going to win by 6, he might win by 9. Or he might win by 3. Trump in the Fox News poll, if it's a margin of error of 3, he might be leading by 7, or he might be leading by 1. You never know. But it's really not many polls out there that show that Biden is leading Trump. They just don't really exist. So those are the latest numbers there. Now, what's going on? There is an onslaught, a flurry, a blizzard, I don't know what you want to call it, a whole bunch of stories that there seem to be trying to nudge Biden to quit running, to get out of the race. You ready? The big one is Axios today. President Biden's reluctance to acknowledge his physical limitations at age 81 is causing some tension on his team as senior aides and First Lady Jill Biden push him to rest more and be vigilant about his health going into 2024. Current and former aides say Biden is extraordinarily energetic for his age. Okay, if you say so. But his repeated insistence that he feels so young can draw eye rolls. Some current and former aides believe Biden doesn't realize how old he can come across. He really does come across as very old. Well, he's 81. Vicious cycle. Biden aides sound the alarm of the president's lack of awareness about his age problem, writes the Washington Examiner. This time around, current and former Biden aides are saying the president might not have a grasp on the widespread voter concern surrounding his age and the strain of a massive workload. He is his own worst enemy when it comes to his schedule, said a former Biden aide. This story from Washington Times. You ready? Recent polls have delivered a major warning to President Biden, showing his support among young voters is not only slipping, but they're flocking to former President Donald Trump. Now, this Siena poll that we just talked about, that has Biden leading in the general election, it also found that Mr. Trump leads Mr. Biden 49 to 43 among young voters aged 18 to 29. Now, these are voters that traditionally vote Democrat. It marks the first time Mr. Trump has been ahead of his successor among young voters since Biden took office. Something is happening out there. The survey also shows severe decline in enthusiasm among young voters for the president ahead of the 2022 elections. Mr. Biden had a 21-point lead over Mr. Trump. By July, he led by 10 points over his expected 2024 opponent. So something has happened. Something has happened and something has moved. Separately, an NBC poll found last month that Mr. Biden's approval rating among young voters, 18 to 34, had suffered a sharp drop from 46% in September. Harvard University poll released last week showed that among 18 to 29-year-olds, Mr. Biden's approval rating stands at 35%. In the 2020 election, young people helped deliver a victory for Mr. Biden, writes the Washington Times. When 60% of them came out now, his support among young people is 35%. That is you talk about the blinking red lights, that's a blinking red light for Democrats. From thehill.com. Biden is losing ground every month, Democrat pollster says. Stanley Greenberg said Monday in an interview on CNN's Inside Politics that Biden campaign needs to focus on telling voters how he plans to deal with rising inflation, holding large companies accountable, and how they will address profiteering among politicians. Greenberg said the only thing that matters among voters is how many months they have struggled to deal with inflation, and they're losing ground every month. And then it goes on to talk about, some of these polls where Biden's approval rating hit 34% saying they approve of his job in the White House. Only a third of voters approve of the job he's doing. 2/3 do not. And when you talk about the economy, the numbers are even worse. You talk about the immigration situation, the numbers are even worse. Squad Democrat Ilhan Omar reveals that she delivered a personal warning to Biden saying that Muslim voters are not going to vote for you. She told this to a CBS station in Minneapolis on Sunday. She said she told the president he needs to reevaluate how his support Israel is conflicting and not selling with a lot of people, especially Muslim voters. He got almost all the Muslim voters last time around. And the sense is that they will not vote for Biden this time around because they disagree with his support of Israel. I mean, he's walking a tightrope on that, but I'll have to say, if he supports Israel, he irritates the Muslim voters in America. And in key states like Minnesota and in Michigan, that's a big block of voters, believe it or not. If he gets squishy on Israel, then he absolutely infuriates Jewish voters in America, and that's a big block that traditionally has voted for Democrats. I don't know how he wins either one of those. He's trying to walk that tightrope, and it's not going so well. Both sides are sort of angry with him right now, and he knows it, and that's why they're so weird and squishy about supporting Israel, which is, of course, the right and moral thing to do. I'll tell you, Christopher, it's so bad. It's really getting bad for Joe Biden these days.
How bad is it?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Even Kamala Harris has better numbers than Joe Biden. A new poll out Monday shows the vice president's favorability rating inching above the commander-in-chief for the first time ever. I mean, we always said, well, you can't get out and hand it to Kamala because Kamala is not even as well liked as Biden is. But that apparently now is changed. Monmouth University poll shows the 81-year-old Biden receiving 34% approval rating. Harris is at 35%. Woo! They're setting the world on fire, aren't they? People approve of what they're doing, don't they? But her disapproval rating's at 57%. She's not the answer. He's not the answer. I don't know who the answer is for Democrats, but it ain't Biden and it ain't Harris. And I keep thinking, I'm sorry, I would love for them to stay in the race because I think Trump will clean up the place if they are his opponents. But I just don't believe that they're going Democrat, the power brokers of the Democrat Party are going to allow that to happen. I just don't. And all of these stories that I've been reading you, those are little snarky, stories that are planted in the media to try to push him out the door. They're trying to do it, just death by 1,000 cuts. Just every day, another onslaught of stories about how Democrats are not at all happy about Joe Biden staying in the race. And what the polls show, and how he's losing among young people, how he's losing around to all these demographics that have traditionally been very supportive. And one of the demographics that was surprising is that he still gets the majority of the vote, but not as many black voters are going to vote for Biden as did in past elections. And a fair number of them, maybe somewhere around 22%, are going to vote for Trump, the way the polls shape up right now. Hispanic voters. You would think Hispanic voters would be crazy for Joe Biden, given all his border problems. Not true. There's a great number of Hispanic voters who are going to vote for Trump, eating away, eroding some of these demographic bases that have been so good to Democrats over the years. Muslim voters, Jewish voters, they're all up in arms. Young people, they're up in arms. I mean, these stories don't come out of nowhere. These are Democrats trying to nudge the old guy out of the way. And now comes this. Even Kamala Harris is more popular than Joe Biden. Meanwhile, and this is on the other side of the equation, former President Donald Trump's campaign team projects that he would formally clinch the Republican presidential nomination by March 19th. Given his lead in the polls in the early voting states, a senior campaign official said on Monday. This is from, I believe, this is Reuters. The team believes Trump is on track to win 1,478 delegates by that date. And again, they said that's March 19th. Based on a mix of public and internal polls, said the official who requested anonymity to discuss the campaign. That would be more than enough delegates needed to win the majority of the 2,429 delegates who will select a nominee at the Republican National Convention set for July in Milwaukee. It could have been Nashville. During the last competitive Republican, I can't give up on that. That irritates me. Republican presidential primary in 2016, Trump did not formally win the number of delegates needed to clinch the nomination until late May. So he's way ahead of 2016. He holds a commanding lead in the Republican primary ahead of the 2024 White House race. And 61% of self-identified Republicans in a recent poll said they would vote for the former president in the primary. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, his closest rivals, were backed by 11% of self-identified Republicans. Now, in some state level, Haley and DeSantis have performed better, but neither has come very close at all to eclipsing Trump. 51 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you into higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.